The heavenly rules and regulations are formulated by me. Thousands of ghosts and gods, listen to my commands. In the hearts of millions of people, I am the Supreme Emperor Immortal who transcends the world. In the eyes of countless immortals and Buddhas, I am an earth-devouring demon. But today, the Tao is no longer here, and I am in charge of all sentient beings. Keywords of the novel. Swallowing Heaven without a pop-up window, downloading the complete text of Swallowing Heaven, and reading the latest chapters of Swallowing Heaven. Chapter 1. The Eye of Heaven. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wu Yu. As the crown prince of the current dynasty, you have committed such a heinous and immoral act, shattering human relationships. You are a disgrace to the Wu kingdom of Dongyue for thousands of years. The reputation of the Wu kingdom of Dongyue for thousands of years has been destroyed in your hands. If the late emperor were alive, if he had known that you had such a beastly behavior, he would have been infuriated to death by you. There were sharp, angry voices tearing at his eardrums around him, causing Wu Yu to have a splitting headache. He made great efforts to open his eyes, but there seemed to be heavy stones hanging on his eyelids, his mind kept roaring, and his whole body was weak. It must have been a dream. I remember that I was about to ascend to the throne as emperor tomorrow, and now I have fallen asleep. I need to wake up early tomorrow. With his martial arts cultivation, only in dreams can his body be so difficult to control. Wu Yu. How long will you continue to perform such a heinous mistake? Another sharp voice poured into your ears like a cold wind, as if someone was shouting mournfully in their ear. The scene before me was a bit hazy, as if I was on a bed. It is now a cold winter, and with his martial arts cultivation, he still feels cold to the bone. Amidst a headache and a blur, Wu Yu saw a woman sitting on the other side of the bed, disheveled, with an extremely seductive and charming face. Her tattered clothes couldn't block her delicate white skin, and her messy long hair was scattered in the snow-white area on her chest, making her even more charming. So beautiful, it seems like she's on the same bed as herself. But she huddled in a corner, looking at herself in panic, her delicate face already covered in tears. Shifei. Wu Yu was struck by a bolt from the blue. Shifei was the consort of the late emperor, in other words, the woman of Wu Yu and his father. Wu Yu doesn't like this woman. Why did he dream of such a scene? Additionally, he felt extremely cold, as if he was only wearing a pair of shorts. He had a splitting headache and fainted again. Wow! A basin of ice water poured onto his head, and Wu Yu woke up to find himself lying on the cold floor. As expected, his clothes were not covering his body. Surrounded by people everywhere, there were fierce, disappointed, and nauseating gazes. This is not a dream. There was a loud bang in Wu Yu's mind. Although he was still feeling weak and confused at the moment, judging from the current situation around him, this was definitely not a dream. Tomorrow I am about to ascend to the throne as emperor. The bed is carved with colorful phoenixes, but it is not my bed. This is the Shiha Hall, it is the Shifei Palace. How could I appear here? Looking over the crowd, I saw the charming Empress Shi of Chu surrounded by a group of palace maids and guards, wearing a thick coat of mink skin. According to the regulations of the Eastern State of Wu, all officials were prohibited from entering the harem, but so many nobles and ministers appeared one by his side, enveloping him tightly. Obviously, something really big happened. Thinking back to what happened earlier, Wu Yu knew it was troublesome. Not good. He was about to stand up when he realized he couldn't do it at all. His muscles had lost their strength, and he even struggled to lie down. Wu Yu. You are such a beast. Empress Shi is your mother's consort. How dare you intend to invade? If it weren't for being discovered in time, my face in Dongwu would have caused you great shame. Scandal, unparalleled scandal. The late emperor, this is the great misfortune of my Eastern State of Wu. Great shame. Princes and ministers were heartbroken. I have said before that Wu Yu is not worthy of being a crown prince, let alone an emperor of Eastern Wu. He is belligerent and aggressive, with a rebellious and unruly personality, and is lawless and independent. He does not learn the way of governing the country, but is devoted to martial arts all day long. How could this be what an emperor of Eastern Wu should be like? The speaker is a prince who holds a high position in the state of Wu and is not pleased to see Wu Yu. Wu Yu couldn't help but sneer in his heart. The truth behind the so-called military aggression was that at the age of 14, Wu Yu led a large army of Eastern Wu to resist attacks from neighboring countries, and finally launched a counterattack, taking a quarter of the neighboring country's territory. He was known as the Crown Prince of Eastern Wu and intimidated the world, earning him the title of Young Army God. The saying goes, I don't learn the way of governing the country, but I am obsessed with martial arts. Wu Yu has his own way of governing the country, and he advocates the use of force. At the age of 15 this year, he has already reached the 5 heavens of martial arts. Across the country, and even in several countries, among peers, no one can compare to Wu Yu in terms of martial arts cultivation. In the Eastern Yu state of Wu, Wu Yu is undoubtedly the first genius, a demon in martial arts. Some even prophesied that in his lifetime, he would reach the realm of the 10 heavenly realms of martial arts and become the supreme martial arts master of his generation. This kind of martial arts talent has been passed down by the Eastern Yu Wu kingdom for thousands of years. Among the successive emperors, only the founding emperor has such expertise. In the mouth of this prince, it has turned into a state of military aggression. I don't agree with this Wu Yu either. He didn't have the mandate of a crown prince. If it weren't for Prince Rong's early death, how would it be his turn? Besides, his mother had a low status and came from a mountainous and wild background. If it weren't for the favor of the previous emperor, how could the crown prince's position be his turn? Wu Yu, with the lowly blood of a mountainous and wild country, is indeed vulgar and despicable. Today's behavior is not even as good as that of a beast. The speaker was a marshal in the army, but both martial arts and power were suppressed by Wu Yu. He has a son who is uneducated and ignorant, causing chaos in the capital of Wu state. Coincidentally, he killed a poor man and captured his daughter, which was caught by Wu Yu. That guy even wanted to give the loot to Wu Yu, but Wu Yu was furious on the spot and hung it on the gate of the capital city, exposing it to sunlight for 3 days and 3 nights before dying. From then on, the playboys of the Wu kingdom were frightened by the news. No one dares to cause chaos within the whole country. At this point, Wu Yu roughly understood that he had been framed and caught on the spot. Someone must have taken the lead in this grand play, using Empress Shi to prevent her from ascending the throne. So, who on earth can still suppress him? To be honest, in terms of means and martial arts, Wu Yu is unparalleled in the world. Since the death of the late emperor, no one dares to disobey him, and coupled with his hatred for evil, he has a huge reputation among the people. Please Haotian Immortal. A piercing sound made Wu Yu's mind buzzing. Haotian Xian, he. Wu Yu was stunned for a moment. He heard the words Haotian Xian correctly. Haotian Xian is a fairy. He is the protector immortal of the Eastern Yu Wu kingdom, reportedly over 100 years old. He is a divine being, different from ordinary people. Even if Wu Yu cultivates to the top 10 levels of martial arts and becomes the supreme figure of martial arts, he is far from reaching the level of an immortal. Immortals are immortals, sent by heaven to save lives in the mortal world. Guardian immortals generally do not participate in mortal wars. They only do one thing, which is to protect sentient beings and kill demons. Generally, only when there are monsters eating people in the country, guardian immortals will appear. Even the late emperor had great respect for this guardian immortal, and he obeyed the commands of the Haotian immortal in many matters. Unexpectedly, he came all the nobles and ministers were devout. Wu Yu looked up and saw a shadow appearing at the entrance of the Shiha hall at some point, as if it had appeared in an instant. Wu Yu was completely unable to capture the trajectory of his movements. This Haotian Immortal is probably the only person that Wu Yu respects. The magic of Haotian Immortal lies in the fact that although it is rumored to be over 100 years old, it still looks like a young man, with a rosy face and a straight body. Although it has white hair and eyebrows, it cannot conceal its vigorous vitality. That is the noble and righteous aura that only immortals possess. He was wearing a snow-white Taoist robe with many gossip patterns on it. He held a brush of dust in his hand, preventing evil spirits from approaching. His eyes were even more brilliant like stars, and many evil things in the world could not escape his gaze. Congratulations to the Haotian Immortal. The nobles, ministers, palace maids and guards, as well as the Empress Dowager Shi, were all thrown to the ground and knelt down. I have a clear understanding of what happened today. The voice of Haotian Immortal is very young, loud and grand, which is stirring to the heart and mind. This is the voice of immortals. Please punish the sinner, the immortal. Empress Shi's face was filled with tears, her whole body trembled slightly, and she appeared very distressed. Haotian Immortal said, "Well, governing a country cannot rely on evil talents." His scorching eyes looked at Wu Yu, causing him to feel a deep sense of guilt, and he almost confessed directly. "Wu Yu, you have made a big mistake this time, and the immortal way is also difficult to tolerate. I have been ordered by heaven to dismiss you from the position of Crown Prince and Emperor. Starting from today, your martial arts cultivation will be abolished, and you will be sent to exile, allowing you to experience in this world and become a new person. Immortal ways are difficult to tolerate. In the name of heaven, we will abolish the emperor's position, abolish martial arts, and be sent to exile." Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Upon hearing such punishment, the nobles and ministers exclaimed, "The heavens are wise." On the contrary, Wu Yu calmed down. He didn't cry or make a fuss. All the anger was suppressed in his heart, forming a huge and surging volcano. Countless lava was rolling and flowing, it was blood hatred. This is fate. It's fate. Wu Yu couldn't help but smile bitterly, he understood. I am at this level. No one in the whole country dares to cure me. Except for him, Haotian Immortal. It turns out that he is the planner of today. Haotian Immortal asked me to die, this is fate, I have to die. Today, God will destroy me. Wu Yu couldn't help but laugh, everyone thought he was crazy. How could you be so disrespectful, and burst into laughter in front of the Haotian Immortal? The ministers were even more disappointed. What a disaster for me, Don Gu. Surrounded by such words, Wu Yu didn't pay attention. What he felt today was the collapse of the entire world. There is no need to bear these ordinary sayings. Wu Yu, I am giving you broken soul powder. Gi, how ridiculous this word is used. I grant you 10 years of hard work, and all your lofty aspirations will be extinguished by smoke and ashes. From today on, be a useless person. I will ascend to the throne tomorrow and lose my soul today. Just now, looking at the Haotian Immortal again, he is still shining brightly, but in Wu Yu's heart, he has fallen from the altar. He is just the strongest mortal in the whole country, and it turns out that this country has always been his. After taking the broken soul powder and 10 years of hard work, I have a strong passion in my heart and let it go. Late at night, Wu Yu was calmly sent away from here and sent to exile. Go be a meat shield, cannon fodder. It is a miracle that he can live on the battlefield for 10 days in his capacity. You. Suddenly, there was a familiar and warm voice. Amidst the cold prison carriage, Wu Yu, who was on the brink of death, opened his eyes. A woman kept shaking the carriage, her eyes bloodshot and her face stained with tears. Wu Yu. This dignified woman is Wu Yu's sister, who has been conferred the title of Worry-Free Princess. Although she is half father and half mother, Wu Yu respects her the most. She is the person in the country who knows Wu Yu the best. Wu Yu's mother left early, and now Wu Yu is the only relative left. How could it be like this? How could it be like this? Wu Yu was powerless and trembling in this cold winter, crying fiercely, and his heart was twisted like a knife. Sister, it's not me who caused trouble today, it's God who wants to punish me, do you understand? Wu Yu reached out his prisoner's carriage and held it with Wu Yu's pale palm. Even in the cold winter, he could still feel such warmth, which made Wu Yu, who had remained calm all night, shed tears. I don't understand, but I believe you, Wu Yu shook her head in pain. That's enough. I have a clear conscience, it's just that the way of heaven is unfair, there's no need to be sad. In the next life, I'll be your younger brother again. Wu Yu suddenly trembled all over and his soul was broken, emitting a fierce expression. In the afterlife, in the afterlife. Upon hearing this word, Wu Yu turned pale and stumbled, falling to the ground. At this moment, the soldiers shouted loudly, pulling the prisoner's cart and rolling away on the main road of the imperial city. The wooden wheels of the prisoner's carriage rubbed against the bluestone slab, making a clicking sound, like a rapid heartbeat. Looking back, although Wu Yu was chasing the prisoner's carriage, she was thin and weak, unable to keep up, and the carriage gradually drifted away. Wow! Suddenly, it snowed heavily. Looking up, countless snowflakes poured down the city. The stunning winter night, with only a few stars, like the eyes of heaven, scrutinizing the world. Wu Yu was covered in snowflakes and left the capital of Wu. Contact the author on WeChat. Thanking Yang. Or search. The wind is clear and sunny. Chapter 2. 3000 Immortal Kingdoms. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dongxing Shenzhou, 3000 Immortal Kingdoms. The 3000 Immortal Kingdoms all have protectorate immortals sitting in their seats. The state of Wu in Dongyue is one of them. Late at night, in the capital of Wu, the imperial city, and the harem. In the depths of the Shihe hall, the courtiers have dispersed. Only a red candle was lit in the hall, and the flames flickered. The figures on the wall all had a ghostly smell. Empress She was fully dressed, and her enchanting face was no longer pitiful, but cold and charming. Deep in the eyes, there is a hint of excitement hidden. Today's matter, thank you very much, master. Consort She knelt on the ground and worshipped devoutly. You are my disciple. Abolishing an emperor or a crown prince is just a trivial matter for me as a cultivator, and it is not worth mentioning. Send me a command tomorrow to let Yuan Hao ascend to the throne. Within the Shihe hall, there was only Empress Shifei, and the voice of the heavenly immortal was heard from unknown sources. In the sound, there is a deep indifference. Yuan Hao was the eldest son of Empress Shi. Thank you again, master. Shi'er will definitely serve you well. Shifei's delicate body trembled slightly, and her beautiful eyes flickered. Anyway, Yuan Hao has my bloodline. Although he doesn't have the ability to cultivate, he can't let him live a mediocre life. It's good to be an emperor in the mortal world. If this were to spread, it would definitely be shocking news. Yuan Hao, the eldest son of Empress Shi, was actually the son of Haotian Immortal. The relationship between these two people is really chaotic. Master, I am still worried. Wu Yu has been a rebellious son since childhood and has some means. Although his martial arts have been completely abolished and he has been sent to exile, I always worry that he will have a chance to rise again. The eyes of Empress Shi sparkled with a hint of blood under the candlelight. Don't worry, I have already asked Wan Qing to intercept him. I promise to keep him alive until tomorrow. I never leave any trouble in my work. Senior Sister Wan Qing. Shifei trembled for a moment, and she was also afraid of that woman. In the dark areas of the Eastern Wu Imperial Palace, there are often living people missing. It is rumored that there are large snakes lurking in the palace, devouring the living. Click wipe. Click wipe. It should have been on a mountain road when the prisoner's car shook violently. Breaking one's soul overnight has completely destroyed the foundation of Wu Yu. Wu Dao has 5 levels of heaven: forging meat, grinding tendons, refining bones, strengthening internal strength, and exchanging blood. After exchanging blood against the heavens, Wu Yu possessed the power of 50 war horses, often charging alone on the battlefield, capturing thieves and kings, and no one could stop him. But now, all the flesh and blood, muscles and bones, internal organs, and battle blood have been discarded, and the hands are no longer able to bind chickens. Reluctantly opening his eyes, it was probably dawn, the sun had not yet risen, and the surroundings were somewhat dim. About 100 soldiers were escorting Wu Yu to the border. A tall and dark centurion with a calm expression stood by Wu Yu's side. The wheels rolled and quickly entered a jungle. In this instant, the team was in chaos. Wu Yu was startled and looked up. The narrow path paved with stones in the jungle was quite narrow, so the queue was quite long. The sky was not completely bright yet, and the situation ahead was not clear. A pungent smell. This smell reminded Wu Yu of a time when he was fighting against a neighboring country. The enemy lured a monster to assassinate him with a treasure, but he was killed on the spot. After revealing the prototype, he realized it was a spider spirit. Demon. It must be a demon to have this taste. Snake. Snake. A terrifying scream came from ahead. The whole team was in chaos in an instant. It's just a wild beast, don't be afraid, let me kill you. The burly centurion next to him drew out his sword and shield, and organized his soldiers to charge forward. This stabilized the situation, but the screams continued and became even more tragic. The speed of that monster was quite fast. When Wu Yu stood up from the prisoner's carriage, his pupils shrank and he saw it clearly. That is a green snake about 5 zhang long, with a body as thick as a tree trunk. The snake's venom is more than 3 feet long when it spits out, and the black venom on its sharp teeth keeps falling down, falling on rocks and corroding into large pits. The demonic aura is pervasive, very terrifying. Tear it off. During the process of the green snake's charge, the soldiers' swords and spears slashed at it without any scars. On the contrary, the snake demon had already been refined into a spirit, biting and colliding. Among these 100 soldiers, some were swallowed alive, some were torn apart, and some were hit by the snake tail hundreds of feet away, shattered to pieces. Escape, escape. For a moment it was like hell on earth. Even the centurion was swallowed by the snake demon. Less than 15 people remained and fled in a hurry, while the rest were shrouded in flesh and blood under the ravages of the snake demon. It's looking at me. Wu Yu realized that although the snake demon was killing soldiers, it was focused on itself. Sure enough, when the soldier fled, it did not chase but swam towards Wu Yu, indicating that he had a goal. Between heaven and earth, there are mortals as well as immortals descending to the world, and the purpose of immortals descending to the world is to kill demons. In the world, there are animals and birds that absorb the essence of heaven and earth, cultivate into demons, and harm people everywhere. This snake demon must be one of them, and it has obviously been for some years. The snake demon approached, and the foul smell rushed in, very foul smelling. Who? At this moment, Wu Yu never expected that this snake demon would transform in front of him. The huge green snake began to shrink, its skin and flesh gradually changed, and in the end, it turned into a woman in green before its own eyes. The woman in blue has long hair like a waterfall, a narrow and long face, a sharp chin, and raised eyes. Although her body is graceful, it exudes a snake-like aura, making people feel chilly. Wan Qing. Wu Yu recognized her as a disciple of Tongtian Immortal, often accompanying him. This recognition was a huge shock for Wu Yu. Tongtian Immortal is a guardian immortal whose duty is to slay demons and eliminate them. Unexpectedly, he raised a snake demon. In the past 10 years, a total of 1368 people have gone missing without any reason in Wu. There is no evidence to investigate, so I must have let these Wan Qing eat them. But Wu Yu understood better that the reason why Wan Qing appeared here was because the Haotian immortal wanted to kill him. Wan Qing landed on the prisoner's carriage, and the gloomy and demonic aura climbed onto his body like tentacles. Wu Yu, we meet again. Wan Qing stretched out a bright red, narrow snake letter and licked her dark red lips, her dark blue eyes fixed on the delicious food in front of her. Seeing Wu Yu's expressionless face, she sneered and said, "Today is your day of death. You should thank my master for letting you accompany your father to the underworld. To cleverly kill him, you wasted a lot of my master's pills. Oh. No wonder my father was still in his prime, but he aged to death within 6 months. The revenge of killing one's father. Deep blood feud. The volcano of hatred is surging wildly. Haotian and Shifei, these two beasts, are not strange at all. Father, although an emperor, has many women and children. The love that can be obtained from him is very limited. But the father is the father, he disregards public opinion and makes himself the crown prince, this is love. Unfortunately, there is no way to repay the kindness. Wan Qing showed no mercy. Death. She extended her hands, which probably had a tremendous strength. Enough to tear Wu Yu apart. Evil beast. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the sky, and a golden light flashed through. A cultivator. In that moment, Wan Qing's face changed dramatically. Without saying a word, she didn't even care about Wu Yu and rushed into the surrounding jungle at a terrifying speed, fleeing. Not far away was a big river, hiding deep inside. Wan Qing trembled all over and fought for her life. The change in the scene before his death left Wu Yu, who was determined, stunned at this moment. Brush. A Taoist suddenly appeared in front of Wu Yu. The Taoist had flying black hair, deep eyes, and looked like a middle-aged man. He was very handsome, with sword energy in his eyes, and his whole body was entangled in sword energy, surrounded by flying dust. He held a golden long sword in his hand, which was extremely terrifying. Although there was still some distance left, he could still feel the sword energy soaring into the sky. Surprisingly, this demon escaped and caused such killing. The Taoist looked around with a sharp sword aura. Hope. Wu Yu instantly realized it. Wan Qing escapes, the immortal arrives. Survive in a desperate situation. Chapter 3. Golden Elixir Immortal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The immortal naturally saw him, and with just a little finger, the prisoner's carriage broke. Even though he was still heavily injured and powerless, Wu Yu stumbled and climbed off the prisoner's carriage. Even if he did, he would climb up to the immortal's eyes. He made several loud bangs and tried his best to say, "Immortal, immortal. My name is Wu Yu, and I am the crown prince of the Eastern Yu Wu kingdom. I have been framed and have fallen to this point. Please accept me as my disciple, immortal." He lifted his head and saw the immortal silently looking at him, carefree and carefree. Take me as your disciple. I will spend my whole life to repay your kindness. Faced with such a great calamity, the revenge of killing his father, the revenge of being deposed, and the revenge of innocent mortals in Wu, it is now the lowest point of Wu Yu's life. If this person is willing to save him, Wu Yu will definitely repay him with death. He has always been like this, someone who repays kindness and revenge. Master. Disciple Wu Yu, upon kowtowing to Master, I hereby swear that I will respect Master and uphold the way throughout my life, and repay my immortal kindness. He knew that missing this time would be hopeless for life. I believe that Immortal has been deeply impressed by his attitude at this moment. You have a good foundation and can enter the Immortal sect, but you have been hit by the soul-breaking powder and have no hope of cultivating in this life. I cannot accept you as my disciple. If you want to become my disciple on the wind and snow cliff, you must have a talent that exceeds 100,000 people. The Immortal said coldly. Wu Yu was struck by a bolt from the blue. He should have anticipated it long ago. However, he is not such an easy person to give up. As long as the immortal is willing to let me stay by my side, be a cow or a horse, it's okay. Wu Yu said at this point, his will had already blurred. Broken soul powder, truly broken soul. You interrupt the soul dispersal, but I don't want to intervene in the affairs of mortals at Fengshui Cliff. Alright, let you go to my immortal sect and work as a laborer for Yanli. In the blur, Wu Yu felt himself soaring in the clouds and mist. That's a means that Haotian immortals don't have. Success. Wu Yu smiled as he fell into a coma. Pop pop. This is the sound made by burning firewood, getting louder and louder. Haotian immortal. Shifei, you despicable person. With a loud bang, Wu Yu sat up from a wooden bed, sweating profusely, his eyes wide open. I had a dream. Looking back now, I found myself in a desperate situation and probably followed that immortal back to the immortal gate. Wu Yu looked around and found himself in a wooden house, which was very simple but tidy, with coffee tables and chairs, wardrobes, and so on. A stove was burning in the middle, bringing a touch of warmth to Wu Yu in this cold winter. Taking a deep breath, even though his body was still weak, Wu Yu felt very comfortable. He noticed something unusual in the air here, nourishing his heart. As expected, this is the spiritual energy. There is absolutely no such strong spiritual energy in the mortal world. If I had practiced here since I was young, today I would definitely have reached the 7th or even 8th level of martial arts. He was delighted in his heart, this must be the immortal sect. However, he was mature in nature and knew that he had been hit by the broken soul powder, and there was no hope of cultivating immortality. I remember the immortal said that it seemed like he was being made a laborer to serve Yanli. The so-called miscellaneous workers should be raising animals, cleaning, chopping firewood, watering flowers, and so on. Step on it. There were footsteps coming from outside, creaking. The wooden door of the cabin was gently pushed open. Wu Yu looked up and saw a hunchbacked old man with a thin and small body, a head shorter than Wu Yu, covered in silver, wrinkles all over his face, and his eyes were a bit cloudy. However, his expression was very serious, as if he didn't like Wu Yu very much. You've woken up. Get up quickly, get dressed, and do something. The old man was very strict, with a pair of cloudy eyes fixed on Wu Yu, but it made Wu Yu feel a little hairy. Wu Yu looked at him and noticed that the old man had something wrapped around his neck with a red rope. That is a 2-inch long small iron rod, with gold at both ends, somewhat like a golden material, and black in the middle, like black iron. This is the immortal sect. Since you have come, you will have to be nailed here for the rest of your life. To survive here, you must know the rules of the immortal sect. The higher authorities have arranged for you to come to me, and you must work hard, speak less, abide by the rules, and avoid causing trouble for me. The old man threw a dark blue outfit on Wu Yu's body and then entered the nearby room, not knowing what he was doing. Upon hearing this, Wu Yu roughly understood that it was the immortal who had arranged himself to be a laborer at Yan Li's place, and then he was assigned to work with this old man. Does this old man seem to dislike me too much? When Wu Yu was puzzled, he quickly got up and put on his clothes. Now that the efficacy of the soul-breaking powder had passed, he was much clearer, but his damaged body was like a withered tree, riddled with wounds and holes. After a while, the old man walked out of the side room, took out a bowl of smoky soup, handed it to Wu Yu, and said lightly, "Drink it." Wu Yusheng was born in the palace, and at a glance, it was evident that this was a ginseng soup that could only be made by a very seasoned old ginseng. It was very precious, and there were only the two of them here. Obviously, this old man had specially made it for him. Therefore, it seems that this old man is cold on the outside and hot on the inside, and does not dislike himself. Thank you, old man. My name is Wu Yu, I don't know how to call you. As soon as I came, I settled down. Wu Yu had a strong desire to see this legendary immortal sect in his heart. My name is Sun Wudao. The old man urged him to speed up. Sun Bo. Wu Yu quickly finished drinking the ginseng soup, and indeed felt a little refreshed. The huge losses during these times were also supplemented. It must be an immortal spiritual medicine that has such an effect. Keep up. At this moment, the old man Sun Wudao had already opened the door and walked out step by step. Wu Yu quickly followed him out. After all, the other party had taken care of him and naturally had to obey his orders. Wu Yu walked out of the door of the wooden house and looked at it in shock. It was winter now, and the mountains were supposed to be covered in white snow. However, what appeared before him were countless green jungles, endless peaks, and fairy mist filled the air. In the mist of immortality, there are countless magnificent, and exquisite palace towers that even the Wu Imperial Palace cannot match. This is simply a fairyland on earth. It was precisely in Wu Yu's imagination that the heavenly palace should look like. Wu Yu is now located on the mountainside of a tall emerald green mountain, surrounded by several blue stone paths that extend towards the mountaintop, foot, and other areas. Sun Wudao walked on a blue stone road leading to the foot of the mountain. Wu Yu followed behind, stepping on the moss-covered bluestone, surrounded by spiritual energy that filled the air, giving off a feeling of ascending to the heavenly palace, transcending the mundane world. Wonderland. Upon his first arrival, Wu Yu felt excited. Sun Wudao walked quickly ahead and said, "Before going to the immortal beast garden, I will only introduce you once. Our immortal sect is the sect of cultivators, but it is a bit special because many Taoist techniques here are related to swordsmanship, so it is called sword cultivation. Our immortal sect is very domineering, named the Tongtian sword sect. To the heavens, to the heavens." Indeed domineering, with a name and a powerful aura, Wu Yu thought of the golden sword that wielded the teachings of the real person. Indeed, the sword energy is heavenly. The Tongtian sword sect is located in several countries, and its sect is the most spiritually rich Blue Wave Mountains among them. The entire Blue Wave Mountains are half the size of a country, with countless cultivators practicing here. Intending to become true immortals, true immortals. Ordinary people are not allowed to step into the blue waves and mountains. In the eyes of mortals from several countries, the blue waves and mountains are the heavenly palace. And now, you are among these blue waves and mountains, on a peak called Yanli Peak. Sun Wudao's words made Wu Yu a little excited. It turned out that the true immortal sect was like this. Sun Wudao continued, "You need to know that the Tongtian sword sect is very large, and the Supreme One is the leader of the sect. He is the one you see, the most powerful, golden elixir immortal, in the legend. He is approaching immortality. Then there are many elders and cultivators of the elders. Originally, the one who saved himself was actually the supreme leader here. In addition, there are many disciples. Among them, the most prestigious one is the core disciple. Apart from the core disciple, there are also external disciples. The number of external disciples is 100 times that of core disciples. In fact, on these blue waves and mountains, the most common ones are us. We are miscellaneous workers, and cultivators are busy practicing. We are responsible for taking care of their daily life, feeding spiritual beasts, planting immortals, cleaning palaces, and so on. A core disciple must have hundreds of miscellaneous workers, and an external disciple must have 10 miscellaneous workers. Wu Yu is very grateful to Sun Wudao. He not only takes care of himself, but also broadens the true world of immortality for himself. Remember. At this moment, Sun Wudao turned around and said word by word, "As miscellaneous disciples, we must know the greatest principle, which is that we must never offend immortals. Even external disciples are not allowed, otherwise it will cause a fatal disaster, not only you but also me. This matter must be engraved in your heart." Wu Yusheng was born in the palace and knew how to position himself. He came to the Tongtian sword sect and, without hesitation, he was the lowest level. I swapped my position with the one in the eastern Yuwu kingdom back then. Don't be discouraged, there is hope for the miscellaneous disciples. Most of the miscellaneous servants are young children who have barely passed the qualification found by the cultivators of the immortal sect in the mortal world. I also came here in the same way back then. Here, I can understand the cultivation and have the opportunity to practice some methods. If the qualification is really strong, I only need to reach the 6th level of the mortal body forging realm before the age of 15 and pass some assessments to become a true disciple of the Tongtian sword sect. There is a possibility of becoming an immortal in the future. I was just one step away from entering the immortal sect and becoming an immortal. Sun Wudao seemed very unhappy about not entering the immortal sect. Speaking of this, his face was heavy, probably recalling the past. Wu Yu only remembered one thing. It seemed that before the age of 15, he could enter this immortal sect by reaching the 6th level of the mortal body forging realm. 15 years old, 15 years old. He will be 15 years old, and in 2 months, he will be 16 years old. He will miss it forever. Unfortunately, I'm useless. Wu Yu clenched his fist, otherwise he would have fought for this opportunity. How can we kill immortals if we don't become immortals? I forgot to say, the so-called Xiantai forging body realm is what you call the 10 heavens of martial arts in the mortal world. The 6th level is the 6 heavens of martial arts. If Wu Yu doesn't break his soul and scatter, in a few days, he will have a chance to enter the 6 heavens of martial arts. Unfortunately, it's a pity. Just like Sun Wudao, there is only one step away from the true immortal gate. After descending the mountain peak, I climbed through the deep mountains and forests, and soon arrived at another peak. Above is the place where you will work in the future, the immortal beast garden. Follow me up. Yes. Is there a fairy beast in the immortal beast garden? Wu Yu thought to himself. Climbing up the mountain again, Wu Yu felt a bit tired, but his mood was still excited. After all, the shock that this immortal sect has brought him is too great. Climbing thousands of steps covered in moss, the immortal beast garden was finally right ahead. However, at this moment, a sharp and long cry echoed in front of Wu Yu, and a giant object soared into the sky in front of him. In the sky, a snow-white giant bird is dancing, with wings spread out 2 zhang long. It has black and white feathers with red accents, and even this bird is full of immortal energy. Obviously, it can easily tear apart tigers and leopards. Upon closer inspection, this is the legendary crane. On top of the crane sat a young girl in a white dress, and Wu Yu could only see her back. Her green hair danced in the wind, her waist was slender, and her jade skin was snow-white. Dancing with the cranes, she was truly the fairy in Wu Yu's heart who should have had a worldly demeanor and did not indulge in worldly pleasures. There's a feeling of being a heavenly immortal. This must be a fairy. Any fairy could give Wu Yu a feeling of being a heavenly immortal, which is enough to show that he is very powerful and outstanding. And there should be many disciples of this heavenly sword sect like this immortal. Wu Yu deeply understood that the Haotian immortal was not the ruler of heaven and earth. There were many people in this world who could crush him. He is not a fairy. At this moment, the girl in the white dress turned back. She has a beautiful face and is a peerless beauty, but her expression is indifferent. Her eyes are like pale butterflies losing their breath in the darkness, just like the indifference of the heavenly way, which is common among cultivators. Bow your head. At that moment, Sun Wudao gave Wu Yu a hard tap on the head. This is the peak master of Yan Lifeng, Su Yanli, the immortal. Not only is he the core disciple, but he is also the personal disciple of the supreme leader of the sect. Among all the disciples, his status is almost the highest, not something you can directly see. Wu Yu, remember, in this heaven sword sect, when you encounter all the immortals, you have to bow your head. Sun Wudao looked at him with a burning gaze. If you don't bow your head, you will die. The last 6 words echoed in Wu Yu's ear. He could tell that Sun Wudao was very nervous. Originally, the immortal path was even more ferocious. Chapter 4. The Death of Wu Yu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yanli Feng, Immortal Beast Garden. There are more than 10 cranes raised here, which are very noble. They are not even willing to eat delicious ones, and they can even eat some of the immortals and treasures of cultivators. The crane is a type of spiritual beast, and all spiritual beasts are creatures with the bloodline of immortal beasts. The rumored immortal beasts are even more powerful than demons, flying to the sky and escaping to the earth, overturning rivers and seas. Such as the divine dragon, phoenix, qilin, divine weapon, and so on. Sun Wudao, who is this? When Wu Yu arrived here, a group of tall and burly laborers with unpleasant expressions gathered around him. They are all young and strong, and have been trained in this immortal sect for many years, with magnificent vitality and blood. If it were in the mortal world, these miscellaneous workers could all become generals. Wu Yu was deeply moved. His name is Wu Yu, and it is said that he was brought back from outside by the sect leader. Sun Wudao is the oldest here, but he doesn't seem to be respected. Master. Don't tease me. A group of burly servants burst into laughter, and one of them, who looked like the leader, stood up and said, since it was brought back by Master, it must be a talent from heaven. Let me try what weight he has. This person's name is Zhao Chuan, and he is one of the leaders of over 100 miscellaneous workers in Yanli Feng. I am in my 30s this year, and I am in my prime. It is said that I have the 4th level of strength in the Xiantai forging body realm. Nei Zhuang. No way. Sun Wudao's slightly frail body stood in front of Wu Yu and said, he has been poisoned in the mortal world and his foundation has been completely destroyed. Don't make things difficult for him, everyone. I didn't expect that when we first met, Sun Wudao would protect himself like this, willing to fight against these burly laborers. Wu Yu took note of this kindness. If it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have been beaten up today. After all, he's a newcomer. I turned out to be a waste, and I made a fool of myself. Whether it's waste or not, I have to do all the work. If one thing is missing, I'll trade my life for it. Zhao Chuan won't sympathize with waste. After all, Su Shangxian entrusted me with the Immortal Beast Garden just to trust me. Zhao Chuan said indifferently. Don't worry, Mr. Zhao. If he's one less, I'll do one more, said Sun Wudao. You old bone, can you handle it? Zhao Chuan sneered coldly before turning around and shouting loudly, brothers, take good care of yourself today. Several immortals are coming to visit Su Shangxian to take good care of their cranes. If there is an accident, let your dog's life be filled. Okay, Commander Zhao. Everyone responded. It is estimated that there is something serious at hand, and Zhao Chuan is too lazy to cause trouble for this old and useless person. Shortly after Zhao Chuan's warning, there was indeed the sound of cranes flapping their wings in the fairy mist at the edge of the sky. Several huge cranes descended on the crane garden, and several young girls came down from above. These immortals are not very old and are similar to Wu Yu. They were all dressed in gorgeous and exquisite clothes, even more splendid than palace attire. The men were heroic and powerful, while the women were graceful, with jade skin and snowy skin. They chatted happily, making people envious. If there is no soul shattering, I can also become one of them. Wu Yu stood respectfully on the side, bowing his head and not daring to look directly. If viewed directly, these immortals will definitely be punished. Senior Sister Su, we are here today to learn from you the immortal way. A few immortals smiled and headed to the Yanli Palace, where these servants around couldn't get in their eyes. Good to serve, good to serve. After they left, Zhao Chuan loudly ordered. Sun Wudao didn't speak much, so he directly taught Wu Yu to feed the cranes. Wu Yu now probably knew the rules here, so he studied honestly, worked hard, and didn't cause trouble for Sun Wudao. In the blink of an eye in the evening, Su Yanli's preaching was over, and those immortals were probably going down the mountain. Wu Yu and Sun Wudao were like father and son, lying on a large blue stone. Wu Yu was inquiring about the details of this immortal sect and learned a lot about it, cultivation, and Sun Wudao's personal life. Suddenly, someone exclaimed in surprise, and the two of them quickly looked up to find a crane vomiting in diarrhea, very manic. That's the guest's crane. Suddenly, such a thing happened, and everyone panicked, even Zhao Chuan was trembling with fear. Coincidentally, at this moment, the group of immortals happened to come down and saw this scene at a glance. My spirit! A handsome young man ran out, dressed in black and white brocade, with a jade pendant hanging from his waist, and a precious long sword accompanying him. Who served the immortal crane of Situ Jin just now? The handsome young man was furious and let out a roar that was deafening. Sun Wudao was almost scared and fell off the blue stone. In fact, the feeding of cranes by miscellaneous workers is random, and the cranes all look similar. Who knows who fed them? And it has nothing to do with who feeds it, it may be due to some issues with today's food. Wu Yu, it's you. At this moment, Zhao Chuan, with a pale face, shouted out. Who is Wu Yu? The handsome young Situ Jin's voice was gloomy. The group's gaze fell on Wu Yu in unison. Wu Yu was also confused for a moment, after all, he had no idea what had happened when he first came here. Damn you! Situ Jin immediately pulled out a long whip, without saying a word, and rushed to Wu Yu's eyes. The whip flew up, lightning was too fast to cover his ears. Before Wu Yu could see it clearly, the cloth clothes on his chest were blown up, and a shocking blood mark appeared. He was hit by the huge impact force and hit the blue stone, losing half of his life. I fed the crane. Sun Wudao stood up, his eyes trembling slightly. Wu Yu almost heard this sentence when his will was fading. I didn't expect him to help me so much when we met by chance. He deeply remembers today's kindness, but he has always been responsible in his actions. This time, Zhao Chuan saw that he was useless and used himself to solve problems. This is himself, Zhao Chuan, and the matter of Situ Jin, which has nothing to do with Sun Wudao. It's none of his business. Wu Yu struggled to stand up and pushed Sun Wudao away. This was his principle of doing things, and he couldn't let others suffer for him. As for life and death, although entering the immortal realm, there is no hope of becoming an immortal, destined to live a mediocre life, serve others for a lifetime, and live at the bottom. Wu Yu actually didn't have much anticipation for such a day. You have courage. I hate fools who have no patience but are full of courage. Situ Jin laughed coldly and raised his long whip, which struck Wu Yu like a venomous snake. For a moment, his skin and flesh were torn apart, his flesh and blood were blurred. Wu Yu groaned and half knelt on the ground, his chest burning with pain. Well, Wu Yu is disabled, and even if he dies, it won't have much impact. We can't die, we're still young and can still serve the immortal Su. The servants comforted themselves. It's really scary. Fortunately, it's not my charm, otherwise I would be heartbroken. Situ Jin is so angry, which is understandable. These servants deserve to die. If they don't kill the chickens and warn the monkeys, they won't be obedient, said a female immortal in a coquettish voice. Click and wipe. Situ Jin was about to kill someone. With a long whip hitting the skull and shattering it, Wu Yu completely lost consciousness. Chapter 5. Tianhe Town di Shen Xiantai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Late at night. Sun Wudao's eyes were slightly red. His thin and weak body knelt on the ground, and in front of him was an irregularly dug pit. Wu Yu's blood had been carefully washed away, and he lay peacefully in this pit, covered in a straw mat. Wu Yu, although we met by chance, it is also fate. This is a treasure passed down from my ancestors, but it has only been a few hundred years and is a scrap iron. However, my father instructed me to pass it on. I have no wife or daughter in my life, and this Tianhe town's divine treasure iron will be given to you. In the afterlife, with this scrap iron, you can also miss it many times. He untied the red rope and put it around Wu Yu's neck, placing the Tianhe town divine treasure iron on Wu Yu's chest. Then he knelt 3 times, covered himself with soil, erected a wooden monument, and wrote on it. Tomb of Crown Prince Wu Yu of Eastern Wu. The Crown Prince of Eastern Wu, half a lifetime of glory. Today, chatting on Qingshi, he learned about Wu Yu's identity in the mortal world. Your grandson, I will guard you for 7 days and 7 nights first. It is said that Su Yanli learned about this matter, scolded Situ Jin a few times, and asked Sun Wudao to bury Wu Yu, so the days ahead were also considered idle. At night, Sun Wudao leaned against the trunk of a tree, gazing at the stars and rivers in the sky. Ah! At this moment, the tomb of Crown Prince Wu Yu of Eastern Wu collapsed. What's going on? Sun Wudao remembered burying himself quite deep. Oh! Suddenly, an arm stretched out from the pile of dirt. Sun Wudao was so scared that he took 3 steps back, his face turned pale, and he sat down on the ground. In front of him, the mound flipped and his second hand appeared, then he pushed aside the mound. Wu Yu, whose face turned red and blood began to flow, crawled out of the pile of dirt. He stared at Sun Wudao with wide eyes and said incredulously, "Uncle Sun, I'm not dead again. How could you bury me in the soil? I almost suffocated to death." He is unable to laugh or cry. However, the scar is still there. When it was pulled just now, the pain was indeed severe. You didn't die. Sun Wudao was stunned. He knew that Wu Yu's injury was quite serious and he didn't die. This is also a miracle. Of course. These few whips won't save my life, Wu Yu just felt like he had fallen asleep. It's pretty good, Sun Wudao stood up, showing a rare smile. Come on, to celebrate you're not dead, let's have a pot. He has been hiding a pot of fine wine for decades. Today, he sprinkled half of it in front of the tomb and kept the other half. It's a perfect time to not get drunk and not return. After drinking, the two lay under the stars and on the black soil. Wu Yu, do you hate Situ Jin? Sun Wudao asked. Hate, I want to kill him, Wu Yu said candidly. The indifferent attitude of those immortals regards them as worthless, and their lives are not as good as those of cranes. I can't hate, I can't hate. Ordinary people cannot fight against immortals. Wu Yu, promise me, Sun Wudao said seriously. Wu Yu didn't know how to answer. They are the proud sons of heaven, born to dominate us. We are mortals and ants. They can easily trample on us, so we must not hate them. The more we hate, the less we can survive. Okay. When Sun Wudao was unconscious, he took care of himself for many days. Today, he also blocked other miscellaneous workers for himself. When he was being blamed, he was willing to replace himself. Wu Yu remembered this kindness in his heart, so he couldn't let him worry anymore. Back then, I almost had the chance to become a fairy. If I succeeded, I wouldn't regret it for life. Sun Wudao sighed and sighed as he looked at the starry sky in the sky. That was the greatest regret of his life. However, it is also a regret for Wu Yu now. He can feel this feeling, just one step away from the immortal. Where's your Tianhe town's divine treasure iron? Sun Wudao widened his eyes and looked at his chest, extremely shocked. Wu Yu only then realized that he had put the red rope around his neck, but the small iron rod was missing. Maybe I fell into that grave, look for it. The two searched for an hour but couldn't find it again. That little iron rod is completely missing. Finally, exhausted and lying on the ground, Sun Wudao smiled bitterly and said, it's just a piece of scrap iron. If you lose it, then you lose it. If you're still alive, that's more important than anything else. Wu Yu is already exhausted. He fell asleep with heaven as his blanket and earth as his mat. In his dream, he actually saw a towering pillar. The giant pillar soared into the clouds, piercing up into the sky and down into the endless depths of the earth. It was majestic and domineering, filled with countless immortal mist. The golden light of the towering pillar shone brightly, shaking the soul. Above it, there are several large characters. Rui golden hoop stick. Every word is like a mountain, pressing on top of Wu Yu's head. Shocking, great shock. What is this Tianju? Wu Yu didn't know it was in his dream. Boom. Later, the 5 major characters of the Rui golden hoop stick were transformed into countless small characters, starting with. The body of the Vajra is indestructible. After cultivation, it will penetrate the heavens and earth, kill 8,000 heavenly palaces, and break through 10,000 hells below. With a copper head and iron bone, the body is like 10,000 gold, and no divine weapon can harm the body. The heavenly Tao and immortal calamity cannot destroy the body, and the heavens and earth will not die or be destroyed. In the future, there were tens of thousands of words of mnemonics, but Wu Yu remembered only the first 1,000 words. Summoning. The first priority is to maintain the invincibility of the Vajra. I am the great sage of the heavenly palace and the immortal realm. The heavenly Buddha and the immortal realm have defeated the Buddha. Those who are destined, pass on my mantle, go against the sky and destroy the earth. Finally, a vast, domineering, and sharp voice roared and echoed in Wu Yu's mind. Pop. Wu Yu was so scared that he sat up. It turned out to be a dream. It was already dawn, and the scorching sun had risen high. Sun Wudao was roasting a rabbit next to him, sprinkling spices with a fragrant aroma. When Wu Yu woke up, his wrinkled hands brought hot water from a bamboo tube and said, "Early in the morning, take a sip of water." Wu Yu was still immersed in the tremendous shock before. The towering pillar, the Rui golden hoop staff, the invincible body of the King Kong, and the last paragraph were too domineering and shocking. Even now, my mind is still in a roar. I didn't even hear what Sun Wudao said to me. Uncle Sun, I'll go back first. This is not far from their wooden house, just climb over a low mountain. The reason why Wu Yu was in a hurry to go back was because he found out that he remembered the mnemonic of, the immortal body of King Kong. And it's clear and engraved in my mind, it's indelible. Just injured yesterday, Sun Wudao couldn't see through his clothes. However, in reality, Wu Yu found that those wounds had already healed. He was like a completely new person, completely intact from top to bottom. Although it was not yet certain that the damage to the soul-breaking powder had been repaired, it only needed a try to understand. Therefore, Wu Yu couldn't wait for a quiet environment. Okay, Sun Wudao nodded repeatedly. After arriving home, Wu Yu first asked Sun Wudao to rest. He returned to his own room and tried to memorize it. Sure enough, he remembered this incredible and incredibly complex mnemonic one by one. The body of Vajra is the top priority and can be cultivated in the realm of the mortal body. It is the strongest and most deeply rooted dharma in the heavenly palace immortal realm. Where is the heavenly palace immortal domain? The great sage of Tianhe, who is the one who defeated the Buddha in battle. Wu Yu was puzzled. He knows that the world is very big, and there are more than 10 countries around the eastern Yuwu kingdom. South Mountain Zhao State, North Peak Qin State. I just don't know where the heavenly palace immortal domain is. But none of these are important for the time being. What's important is that he guessed that he might have been reborn after death and had a fate. The excitement of the mood is certainly unprecedented. However, he needs to be certain. He slightly adopted the martial arts techniques of the Eastern Wu royal family and tried them out, and it turned out to be feasible. If it weren't for being afraid of attracting attention, he might be about to howl at the neck at this moment. Because this means that the damage caused by the soul-breaking powder has been completely restored. Although starting from scratch is necessary, at least there is hope for cultivation. Even if he cannot enter the immortal sect, he still has the opportunity to work hard in 100 years. I, Wu Yu, endure humiliation and have finally been reborn. I don't know how much bitterness lies in this sentence. The Rui golden hoop stick, the divine and precious iron at the bottom of Tianhe town, is probably inherited from Sun Bo's small iron stick. This is Sun Bo's thing, and I want to share it with him to cultivate this diamond immortal body together. Wu Yu is looking for Sun Wudao. Just as I had this idea, I suddenly had a splitting headache. Indeed, I have received a fortune. But this fortune, I don't want to share it with Sun Bo, because I'm worried about spreading it. Wu Yu was quite speechless, as it was something from Sun Wudao, and he couldn't even return it to him. He calmed down. Sun Bo is 100 years old and already advanced in age. No miraculous remedy would allow him to continue his cultivation. With this in mind, he gave up the idea of having Sun Wudao practice together. However, his dream when he was young was to enter the immortal sect and become a disciple of the Tongtian sword sect. If I could complete this step, he would definitely be very happy. His time is limited, and I cannot let him have any regrets. From today on, I will strive for a month to enter the immortal sect. I will definitely enter the immortal sect. On the blue stone, Sun Wudao talked to him about his dreams when he was young. He was just one step away, which was naturally the deepest regret. Wu Yu felt an incredibly strong desire in his heart. He wants to achieve enlightenment and become an immortal. He wants revenge, revenge. The Wu kingdom, which belongs to him as the Eastern Yu, has been passed down by his ancestors for thousands of years. Sun Wudao talked about some details of cultivation today. The 10 heavens of martial arts is the immortal's mortal body forging realm, abbreviated as the forging realm. The physical realm consists of 10 levels, namely forging meat, grinding tendons, refining bones, strengthening the inner body, exchanging blood, breaking the orifices, concentrating the mind, getting rid of pregnancy, transforming into immortality, and purifying the mind. The first level is to forge meat, exercise muscles, refine the whole body's blood and flesh, and make it as powerful as a horse. After success, the body becomes refined, giving it the power of a warhorse. The second step is to sharpen the muscles and meridians. After cultivation, the combat power soars, with the power of 5 war horses. Then hone the bones, strengthen the 5 organs and 6 viscera, exchange blood against the heavens, connect the ren and du meridians, break through the body's acupoints, finally condense the spirit, then merge the spirit and flesh, transform into a new body, and then go up one layer to reach the level of immortality, preparing for immortality, and finally connect with the gods. With the power of ghosts and gods, after connecting with the gods, there will be the power of 2,000 warhorses. At that time, one person could block 1,000 armies alone, and it was the 10 heavenly realms of martial arts. The supreme martial god in the mortal world was such a realm. But in the realm of immortality and divine connection, it's just a prelude to immortality. After forging the body state of the mortal body, it becomes the condensing chi immortal root state, also known as the condensing chi state. It is said to be related to the cultivation of magical power and the cultivation of immortal roots. Tongtian Immortal, as well as all his core disciples, such as Su Yanli, are truly at this level, capable of overturning the river and the sea, capable of anything. However, the most powerful one is still in the realm of condensed chi, the supreme leader, the golden elixir immortal. Thinking of that person, Wu Yu's eyes were hot. If he could become his disciple, he would have taken off for 9 days. Chapter 6. The Immortal Body of King Kong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Wu Yu regained his life, to avoid trouble, he asked Sun Wudao to spread the news of his recovery. The miscellaneous workers on Yan Lifang's side at Wu Yu's tenacious life, and the news also reached Su Yanli. Su Yanli may have been killed by other external disciples, but he gave Wu Yu a month to rest and rest. In this way, Wu Yu had the opportunity to devote himself wholeheartedly and strive towards the dream he had longed for most in half his life. Sun Bo, I'll go for a walk in Greenleaf Valley to relax. Every day, Wu Yu sets off early in the morning, sometimes even waking up earlier than Sun Wudao. After encountering great difficulties, Wu Yu has become much more agile. Sun Wudao watched as Wu Yu quickly disappeared into the mountains and forests, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He didn't pay much attention. As long as Wu Yu could relax and forget about hatred, it would be okay. That's right, Wu Yu didn't tell Sun Wudao about his fate. Firstly, what he longed for the most was the only opportunity to enter the immortal sect a month later, which was the biggest dream in the lives of Wu Yu and Sun Wudao. However, Wu Yu currently does not have much confidence, as there is only 1 month left. He was worried about letting Sun Wudao down. Secondly, Wu Yu wanted to showcase his strength on that day and surprise Sun Wudao. This old man has been taking good care of himself these days, so Wu Yu wants to see the pride of Sun Wudao. That may be the most important day of Wu Yu's life. The scorching sun had not yet risen in the morning, and sweat had soaked Wu Yu's clothes. He searched through the mountains and forests, leaping like an ape among the trees, allowing his limbs and flesh to be fully exercised. A day is hardly wasted. Herculant. The sound of heavy breathing undulated in the mountains and forests. Wu Yu used both hands and feet, running rapidly. Many branches and leaves on the road pulled bloodstains on his skin, but he didn't pay attention. You can vaguely see that within the surrounding spiritual energy, subtle golden threads converge, merging into his flesh and blood. When the sun rises, there is even more golden spiritual energy. Wu Yu's body is always strong and resilient. Pop. One person didn't notice and fell from a 2-foot-tall tree, covered in soil. Continue. The only chance. For this moment, after suffering too much, Wu Yu knew even more that it was not easy to come by now. He got up and continued practicing, sweating profusely. The immortal body of Vajra is truly mysterious. Just the first level, it is divided into 10 levels, with a total of 10 major techniques. The Dongwu Huangjing that I practiced at the beginning was just a secret script, which directly recorded the method of the 10 levels of martial arts, but it was not subdivided into the 10 major martial arts sections. Compared to this diamond immortal body, the first martial arts sect in the Wu kingdom of Dongyue is nothing but scum. The first step in forging the body is to forge the flesh. In the immortal body of Vajra, the first level of Dharma is called Vajra forging meat. Wu Yu is now officially practicing according to this diamond forging meat practice, which has a huge intensity, but the effect seems to be also enormous. Especially since Wu Yu already had experience in the 5 heavens of martial arts, progress has been very rapid. As the name suggests, the state of forging is to forge the body, and the body needs to be honed before it can be forged. Especially in the first state of forging, it requires tremendous training. Every day, Wu Yu rushes through the mountains and forests, darting like monkeys or diving into the bottom of the river, bearing the heavy pressure of the river water. He steals with his breath closed and punches at the bottom of the water. Or stand under the waterfall and let the endless heavy water bombard your back. Or as if crazily striking a giant tree 3 feet in diameter with a fist. Day after day. Diamond forging meat is the beginning of all of this. It is extremely difficult for ordinary people to bear the process, but Wu Yu's resilience in his heart is beyond imagination. During his diligent cultivation time, he always remembered entering the immortal gate, fulfilling his dream with Sun Wudao, and remembering the enmity between Eastern Wu. Remember the faces of Haotian immortals and their faces. There's not much time left, rush. Heavenly bestowed diamond, forge my flesh and blood. At noon, Wu Yu rushed towards the mountaintop, sweating under the scorching sun, and punched the rocks on the mountaintop with a punch. The so-called diamond must be forged through countless trials and tribulations. I don't have much time, so I must put in 10 times the effort of others. If someone punches me, I will punch 10. Pop 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 pop. The giant stone trembled on the mountaintop, day after day, gradually appearing cracks. However, Wu Yu's hands and feet had long been worn out, but in the shattered flesh and blood, new flesh and blood were born. Amidst the flesh and blood, threads of golden spiritual energy shuttle through. Especially during the hottest days of the scorching sun, there are more golden threads. Not just on the fist, but all over the body are wounds. The pain brought by these wounds was scorching, but for Wu Yu, who was in a state of madness, it was nothing at all, especially when diving into the river with his wounds, the pain was even more terrifying. He gritted his teeth and persevered. Without honing one's willpower, how can one become the supreme master of martial arts? Without becoming the supreme master of martial arts, how can one enter the immortal realm? I want to become an immortal. I will die 9 times and be reborn later. High-intensity exercise brings extreme hunger. Wu Yu eats many wild animals and treasures found in the mountains every day, but unfortunately, the quantity is not large. The true treasures of these blue waves and mountains belong to the Tongtian sword sect. If I become a disciple of the Tongtian sword sect, I am eligible to enjoy those resources. By then, I will definitely make progress faster. This is also Wu Yu's motivation. He knows that there are many rare treasures in this world that are beyond his current realm to imagine. Boom! 5 days later, the giant stone exploded before his eyes. Break it! With a roar that shook the heavens and earth, the energy in my chest erupted, giving me a sense of transcendence. Under the scorching sun, it seemed as if the fire of the sun had already burned onto him. Between heaven and earth, a strong spiritual energy surged into his body, forging flesh and blood from all his wounds. At this moment, Wu Yu completed his transcendence and entered the first stage of forging his body. Within his body, a faint golden aura converged and condensed in one direction, eventually forming a palm-sized swastika on Wu Yu's back. Gold characters. Power. The feeling of strength, returning to the body. Diamond forging meat, finally completed. Wu Yu, shirtless, was wearing a pair of black pants. He stood on the mountaintop, although his body appeared thin, his muscles were very condensed, with a faint golden light flowing in it, converging on the golden swastika character on his back. Roar. Wu Yu let out his first roar towards this endless world. He's back. Returning to the first level, but the feeling is completely different from when we reached the first level last time. In terms of power alone, it is already equivalent to the power of 3 war horses, 3 times the weight of the first level of ordinary forging realm. At the same time, there are 2 unexpected effects. Firstly, calm forged flesh, with a strong and resilient body. Just the first weight is like this. When I cultivate this Kong's immortal body, in the future, will it really have a copper head and iron bones that are invincible to knives and spears? This is what Wu Yu looks forward to the most. After all, even immortals are flesh and blood. If they are copper-headed and iron bone, they are invincible. Who is still their opponent? Even when standing, others cannot harm themselves. Secondly, my ability to recover my flesh and blood is also beyond that of ordinary people. I have suffered many injuries in recent days, but without using herbs, it seems that I have recovered on my own. I don't know if in the future, I will truly be immortal and reborn with drops of blood. Several times the strength, several times the physical resilience, and several times the ability to restore flesh and blood. Although it was only the first level of physical training, the grandeur of Wu Yu's qi and blood now exceeded imagination. After practicing the second-level technique, diamond muscles, even the muscles and meridians may have to become as strong and resilient as diamond. Wu Yu had a premonition that the mystery of the immortal body of King Kong was probably just a glimpse of the tip of an iceberg. He did not rest at all and began the second cultivation of diamond muscle. The second aspect of forging is to grind the tendons. Grinding tendons and forging meat are slightly different, with a focus on the tendons and meridians, so the cultivation methods are also different, but more arduous. However, Wu Yu has had the experience of reaching this level, and today his inner strength has become stronger, and his methods have become more profound. Although time is not long, progress has been tremendous. In a few days, Wu Yu once again achieved great success. His muscles and veins were honed to be stronger than flesh and blood, like a steel rope, but not only hard, but also terrifying toughness. Muscles and veins are also the foundation of strength. After reaching the second level of the forging state, Wu Yu directly possessed the power of 10 war horses. Just arrived at the second level, I didn't expect my strength to have reached the previous fifth. For Wu Yu, the immortal body of King Kong is terrifyingly exquisite, and he understands that he has truly gained a treasure. Under the scorching sun, in addition to the refined and explosive flesh and blood, there is also a dense network of golden tendons and veins covering the whole body like a huge web, but all of this is just the beginning of cultivation. The third level of Dharma is golden yen bone. Need to cultivate to the point where bones are like gold, pure and vibrant. Having a golden skeleton serves as the framework for the body, where blood and bone merge and spiritual energy converge, to the point where the skeleton can produce a golden flame, is considered a great achievement. The first installment of the entire Vajra immortal body, with 1,000 words in front, can be considered as the forging and laying of the body. From flesh and blood, to muscles and veins, and then to bones. From now on, Wu Yu didn't think much about it. But he knew that if he could reach the level of the Supreme Martial God, in the 10 heavens of martial arts, he might not even be afraid of the Haotian immortal at that time. It took a total of 11 days to reach the second stage of forging. The Tongtian sword sect has announced the specific date for the miscellaneous worker assessment, and after actuarial calculation, there are still 20.1 days left. Wu Yu himself didn't have much hope, but now he really thinks it's feasible. The sixth level of the physical training realm, normally speaking, has the power of 100 warhorses. If I have the power of 100 warhorses, others will think that I have reached the sixth level and am eligible to participate. The more forging progresses to the end, the greater the increase in strength. In order to prepare for that day's battle, Wu Yu also revisited his former martial arts. It is rumored that the immortal Tao has Taoist techniques, and the heavenly immortals in Haotian can master them. It is simply unbelievable. The 10th level of the forging body realm is still immortal, and I am temporarily unable to practice Taoism. In addition to Taoism, there are martial arts in the mortal world, and the forging realm of this immortal sect actually showcases martial arts in the mortal world. Martial arts can be divided into lower grade, middle grade, and upper grade. After arriving at the Tongtian sword sect, Wu Yu learned that Lian Fanjian's martial arts also had the level of top-notch. He has the resources of the Eastern Wu royal family and has learned many martial arts, the strongest of which is the secret script of the Eastern Wu royal family. Although it is a mid-level martial arts, it is very famous, called East Sea Whale Slaying Sword. It is rumored that this martial art is an ancient martial arts master who learned from fighting against waves and killing giant whales in the East China Sea. The Eastern Wu state of Wu is located on the edge of the East China Sea, so it has been passed down. However, at his current level, Wu Yu is unable to fully unleash the power of the East Sea Whale Slaying Sword as before, so he revisited a lower-level martial art called Tiger Roaring Dragon Fist. Although this is a lower-level martial art, it is the most powerful martial art among lower-level martial arts, with the power of dragons and tigers. In addition, there is also a footwork called Monkey Ghost Step. Once, Wu Yu charged into tens of thousands of armies with the help of ape and monkey ghost steps, and used the East China Sea Whale Slaying Sword to slay the heads of enemy generals, cheering the whole country. Once proficient in martial arts, now the recultivation is naturally very smooth and natural. The combat power surged. Until late at night, Wu Yu was still honing his martial arts and footwork. Poo. A huge piece of wood, under the impact of Wu Yu's Tiger Roaring Dragon Fist, burst from the middle, then the cracks increased, and finally collapsed with a loud bang. Pop. At this moment, applause came from the side. Oh no, I'm so immersed in cultivation that I forgot to pay attention to my surroundings. Wu Yu's mind shook and he quickly looked over. In the dark jungle, 6 burly figures broke through the darkness and walked towards him with a fierce smile. Chapter 7. Night, Black Wind, High Murder Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhao Boss. Although Wu Yu has already been abandoned, he is breaking this tree at this moment. It has only been a few days, and he must have achieved great fortune in our Yanlifeng. A sleazy servant with a big mole on his mouth said to Zhao Chuan, who looked like a dog in the middle. Very good. Zhao Chuan's eyes were filled with deep excitement, but he didn't rush to show it. After a while, everyone had already walked up to Wu Yu. What's the point? Wu Yu squinted his eyes at them, especially Zhao Chuan. Many days ago, Wu Yu never forgot that incident. It was Zhao Chuan who caused him to bear the blame and almost killed himself. We are just curious. Aren't you useless? How could you have the ability again? Did you sneak into our residence and steal our cultivation methods? Zhao Chuan is a true villain, always doing things openly. Wu Yu was very clear that they saw a huge change in themselves, so they would definitely have doubts and even covets. Wu Yu, you shameless thief. If you are sensible, quickly return what you stole from me. I won't argue with you. Zhao Chuan's eyes were burning, with deep greed hidden in them. He has been in this immortal sect for a long time, but there is no hope of becoming an immortal. If there is an opportunity, he will definitely fight to win it. Firstly, I didn't steal it. Secondly, I have nothing to give you. Wu Yu knew that Zhao Chuan was the 4th level of the forging realm, surpassing himself by 2 levels, and his strength was twice that of himself. With the power of 20 war horses. Boss Zhao, kill him, it's all done, said another sturdy worker next to him. I'll give you a chance to make contributions, you go. Zhao Chuan slapped his head. To be honest, he didn't have much patience. We need to have this kind of thing in hand to feel at ease. Thank you, Mr. Zhao. The sturdy man rushed forward with great momentum and blood, with the power of several war horses. One punch could break a tree. Humph. This person was full of flaws, and Wu Yu didn't want to waste time. Suddenly, he charged forward, and his flesh and blood burst into a strong force. He flew up and kicked the strong man's chest in front of him, with a few clicks in time. The strong man's sternum sank, and with a scream, he flew backwards and rolled on the ground several times, screaming in agony, losing half of his life. So strong. Zhao Chuan quickly checked the injuries of the strong man. What kind of luck have you got, so powerful? At the moment of his confusion, the remaining 4 people around him teamed up to attack Wu Yu. Although the realm was the same, Wu Yu practiced the invincible body of Vajra. Getting punched by them was basically okay, but as long as they hit Wu Yu's move, they all sprayed blood and flew back, breaking their arms and legs one by one. They couldn't get up for half a year. It's your turn. In the blink of an eye, only Zhao Chuan remained in Wu Yu's fiery gaze, while the others were all howling on the ground. Pleasure and enmity, this feeling is really satisfying. Since heaven has given me a chance to be reborn, why not seek revenge? Zhao Chuan in front of me almost harmed my own life, and I want to seize my own destiny. How can I compromise at this moment? Zhao Chuan's face was sweating profusely. He didn't feel like he was not a match for Wu Yu, but rather that Wu Yu's simple and rough actions slightly frightened him. Tiger Roar Dragon Fist. Take the punch and charge forward. There are 3 steps in total, each step borrowing strength on the ground. In the 3rd step, Wu Yu was like a fierce tiger descending from the mountain, with a majestic momentum. With a sudden roar, he let out a tiger roar, which shook Zhao Chuan's ears. The most terrifying thing was that the punch erupted, right in front of Zhao Chuan in the blink of an eye. However, Zhao Chuan was not a fuel-efficient lamp. In the blink of an eye, he took out a long sword from somewhere and stabbed Wu Yu. Do you think that if Zhao Chuan can become the steward of the immortal beast garden, I am a vegetarian? He already had several ways in his mind to kill Wu Yu. Kill him. Everyone harbored hatred in their hearts. Wu Yu, you have cruelly harmed your fellow countrymen and committed countless crimes. Today, I, Zhao Chuan, will take over your life on behalf of Su Shangxian and clear your door. Zhao Chuan's face was cold, and the long sword made of refined steel in his hand shone with cold-blooded light in the dark night. As cold as bone-piercing. Zhao Chuan has reached the 4th level of physical fitness, reaching the state of internal strength. His 5 organs and 6 viscera have been forged, with a long breath and essence of flesh and blood. In his breathing, thunder from tigers and leopards can be heard from his chest. He is like a fierce tiger and cheetah in the mountains and forests, with a pair of icy eyes staring at his prey. The refined steel long sword is his sharp teeth. Powerful. If it were during the Wudao Wuchong Heavenly Festival, it would not be difficult to defeat this opponent, but now it seems that Zhao Chuan has at least 20 war horses, twice the strength of himself. This fool is from Sun Wudao. Perhaps Sun Wudao knew he had a fate, Commander Zhao. Today, we ended up with him. Tomorrow, we will leave Sun Wudao at Black Intestine Cliff and let him break to pieces. His body will be fed to the crow. I didn't expect this disabled person to have a turning point, but encountering Zhao Laoda was his misfortune. Zhao Laoda shouldn't easily kill him first. We can't swallow this, we must make his life worse than death. Wu Yu quietly took note of these words and realized that it was supposed to teach his opponent a lesson, but now it has evolved into a never-ending situation. Ding ding. Zhao Chuan's refined steel long sword trembled in the darkness, with a deadly intent. Zhao Chuan's unique skill should be the top worker disciple, who can cultivate the middle-level martial arts Rainstorm Pear Flower Sword. The middle-level martial arts is a national treasure in the kingdom of Wu in the eastern mountains, but in this Tongtian sword sect, it was eliminated to the worker. Zhao Chuan's strength is twice that of me, and he also has intermediate martial arts. Wu Yu didn't expect to encounter him. This battle was quite dangerous, perhaps only by fighting to the death could there be a way to survive. Death. In this moment, without saying a word, Zhao Chuan quickly dodged and wielded the refined steel long sword to kill him. For a moment, the sword shadows were heavy, and the killing intent lurked everywhere. So ruthless. That sword pierced straight into Wu Yu's eyebrows. Hide. He was unarmed and could only dodge. He quickly took up the monkey ghost step and retreated. In the mountains and forests, the monkey ghost step was even more effective. Although the long sword had many deadly attacks, several of them allowed Wu Yu to dodge in danger. This disabled person really doesn't have much ability, only knows how to dodge. Zhao Chuan endured severe pain and cursed with disgust on his face. Being a grandson for a long time means being childless. Shua shua. Several branches and leaves around were cut off by Zhao Chuan's long sword and sharp blade, flew out, and the leaves scattered all over the ground. The rough cut at the mouth of the bowl is very even, demonstrating Zhao Chuan's superb swordsmanship. Pear blossoms dancing. Zhao Chuan relentlessly pursued him, his sword shadows turning into pear blossoms. Waves of sword light and shadow came crashing in front of him. Wu Yu unleashed the ape and monkey ghost steps to the extreme, still several times heart-wrenching, completely allowing Zhao Chuan to chase after him without a chance to fight back. Once he fought back, it was estimated that his arm would be cut off by Zhao Chuan. Humph. Zhao Chuan was not in a hurry. At this moment, he took the lead and tore a wound under Wu Yu's rib. Blood oozed out for a moment, revealing deep bones. It can be vaguely seen that Wu Yu's skeleton has already had golden light flowing, becoming a faint golden skeleton, only missing the birth of a golden flame. This Jin Yen bone is considered completed. Alright, Wu Yu is dead. Zhao Chuan and others were extremely happy. Death. Zhao Chuan's riotous fighting turned the Rainstorm Pear Flower Sword into a downpour, which shrouded Wu Yu's head. In the next half hour's protracted fighting, he once again killed several wounds on Wu Yu's body. The blood dyed the black clothes red, causing Zhao Chuan and others to laugh grimly. From beginning to end, Wu Yu didn't let out a painful cry, as if it wasn't him who was hurt. In fact, Zhao Chuan himself never expected that he could fight with Wu Yu for half an hour, and he was secretly surprised by Wu Yu's resilience. We have to deal with him. Thinking of this, Zhao Chuan accelerated the battle, his sword opened and closed, and in the midst of Zhao Chuan's screams, he almost killed Wu Yu. He didn't notice that a golden light flickered in Wu Yu's eyes. A sword pierces through the heart. Zhao Chuan erupted, and the refined steel long sword was very stable. Like a venomous snake, it seized an opportunity and suddenly stabbed towards Wu Yu's heart. This time, he was very confident. At this moment, a golden light suddenly appeared in Wu Yu's eyes, causing Zhao Chuan to squint his eyes. In a critical moment, Wu Yu let out a roar and made an incredible move. He held Zhao Chuan's fine steel long sword with his left hand, blocking the opponent's puncture. The fine steel long sword pierced and pulled out deep bloodstains on his palm, almost breaking his palm. Unfortunately, although it pierced flesh and even broke some muscles and veins, it could not cut through Wu Yu's bones. Deep in the flesh and blood, above the bones, there was a night of struggle, and Jin Yan was born. Qinglong goes out to sea. When Wu Yu held the opponent's long sword with his left hand, he only had one chance: either you died or I died. A roar shook billions of oceans like the roar of a dragon. Oh! Wu Yu clenched his right fist and used the second move of the Tiger Roar Dragon Fist to concentrate his strength, even accumulating for half an hour. In this instant, his right fist seemed to transform into a blue angry dragon. In the next moment when Wu Yu grasped the opponent's long sword, it fiercely hit the side of their head with a click. Zhao Chuan widened his eyes, released the handle of the sword with his right hand, and fell softly to the ground. Close combat, kill with one strike. Herculant. Wu Yu was panting heavily, his left hand almost cut off, and his body was still covered in scars. He still held the refined steel long sword in his hand, with blood dripping down. Immediately, Jin Gu Xingyan is about to reach the third level. Today's thrilling battle gave Wu Yu a third level of training. With his own experience and the help of Zhao Chuan, he became successful. This is also the key point for Wu Yu to be able to kill Zhao Chuan in the end. He didn't want to kill anyone today, it's just that Zhao Chuan wanted to kill him. He has no other choice. In the Tongtian sword sect, of course, the miscellaneous workers cannot kill each other, otherwise they will inevitably suffer heavy punishment. All of this happened in an instant. Previously, it was Zhao Chuan who suppressed Wu Yu. Suddenly, in an instant, Wu Yu fought desperately with his flesh and blood palm to block the sword, and with one punch, Zhao Chuan fell. Mr. Zhao. All the miscellaneous workers were even more confused, with pale faces and incredulous glances at Wu Yu. Zhao Chuan, whom they usually worship, actually died in the hands of Wu Yu, a disabled person. Wu Yu. You're done, you killed Zhao Laoda. According to the rules of the Tongtian sword sect, you will be executed, said a worker trembling. Unexpectedly, this sentence led to a fatal accident. You just said, today you destroyed me, and tomorrow you will leave my grandson on the Black Intestine Cliff to feed the crows, right? Wu Yu grabbed the fine steel long sword and walked forward. I. The servant saw the murderous intent in his eyes and trembled all over for a moment, saying, no. I didn't say that. Shua. Wu Yu used this sword one after another to cut off their lives. In life, slaughter is inevitable. For Wu Yu, he would kill two types of people. Firstly, there are great traitors and villains, like the snake demon. Secondly, having a deep grudge against him is like a sea-like generation, like a heavenly immortal. The second type of people, once kind, often bring greater harm to themselves, and these miscellaneous workers are obviously like this. After finishing it, Wu Yu looked at the ground covered in blood. The world is ferocious, and one needs the power of self-protection in order to live with dignity. The law of the jungle applies to both humans and animals. Of course, as long as he leaves, no one will know that the people here are his hands. Qi Tian de Sheng, defeat Buddha in battle, thank you for giving me a new life. At night, Wu Yu buried the refined steel long sword. When he became stronger, he could dig it out and use it to unleash the domineering East Sea whale slaying sword. At this moment, he noticed that although there were no herbs, the wounds on his body were recovering and were expected to heal in a few days. Today, due to misfortune and blessings, I have reached the third threshold of the physical fitness realm and need to continue to consolidate. There were too many bloodstains on his body. He spent half a day tidying up, bandaged the wound, covered up the past, and then returned to his residence. The night was already deep, and insects were chirping everywhere. Wu Yu stood at the window of Sun Wudao's room, and through the thin veil, he could see the old man sleeping soundly. I hope he can enjoy his old age peacefully from now on. If I could enter the immortal sect, perhaps it would be his greatest surprise in this life. This time, I will not disappoint his high expectations. Wu Yu clenched his fist. At night, Wu Yu felt a bit tired and went back to his room to sleep. He didn't see it, but in fact, a girl in a white dress followed him for half a day. She was already beside him when he first met Zhao Chuan. However, she is an immortal, Su Yanli. How could Wu Yu know that she is next to her? Chapter 8. Tongtian Immortal Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wu Yu. In the morning, Sun Wudao hurriedly came over. What's wrong? Wu Yu was about to go out, and today he was going to fully train to become a golden yen bone. I heard that Zhao Chuan and a few others were killed last night in Yanlifeng. It's currently causing a stir, and all the servants are trembling with fear. It's said that some demons from outside have infiltrated the Blue Wave Mountains to retaliate against these righteous people. Oh, I got it. The world is in chaos. Sun Wudao looked at Wu Yu seriously and said, these days are so chaotic. You should not go out to relax. There is not much time to rest, so you can stay in the room to rest and recuperate. He is indeed very kind to himself. If it weren't for his fate, Wu Yu wouldn't have had the opportunity to be reborn. I still want to go out for a walk, don't worry. I'm nearby, in the back mountain position. Wu Yu insisted, of course. In fact, he wanted to explain the current situation to Sun Wudao several times, but after thinking about it, he still wanted Sun Wudao to directly show off during the assessment. Under the spotlight, make him proud. He arrived at the back mountain. Between the mountains and forests, the rising sun rises in the east. Blue waves and mountains, layered with mist and peaks, even if standing in the sky, there is no end in sight. Countless immortal mist permeates, even displaying the colors of a rainbow under the sunlight. Countless cranes are dancing, and countless rare birds and beasts are galloping between the mountains and forests. Fairy sword lights dance in the void, transforming into flowers or beasts. In the hottest part of the scorching sun, Wu Yu only wore a pair of long pants and forged a golden skeleton at the highest point. Under the scorching sun, the young man's long hair was tied into a bundle, and his delicate features occasionally revealed a golden glow. After the first round of flesh forging, his flesh and blood were reborn, and his new skin was very white and pure, with a golden fluorescence flowing. After recultivation, his temperament changed, and he was already a beautiful young man shining with gold. The innate arrogance in his eyes was very eye-catching. Especially the golden swastika on his back shone even more brightly, and all the sunlight condensed into a beam, pouring into his body from this golden swastika. Diamond forging flesh, with a network like golden veins all over his body, and the golden bones that gave birth to Jin Yan. Now Wu Yu is also considered a beginner in the invincibility of the diamond. After success, the combat power increased significantly again. I just reached the third level and surprisingly have the power of nearly 50 war horses. It's equivalent to the fifth level of the physical training realm. Now, I am on par with when I was in Wudu, not right, I should be stronger than when I was in Wudu, standing under the scorching sun. Wu Yu couldn't help but smile. In total, it has only been more than 10 days, and he has surprisingly reached such a level. Although it is related to past experience, it cannot be denied that the unbreakable body of King Kong is indeed extremely rebellious. Wu Yu deeply understood that he had obtained a remarkable inheritance. Inheritance and creation will definitely be coveted in this immortal sect. It seems that besides the entry-level assessment, I need to keep a low profile at other times. I just don't know if practicing deep enough can be comparable to that golden elixir immortal. Wu Yu's current dream has gradually shifted from governing the country and pacifying the world, to being a lifelong warrior, wielding swords and being carefree throughout his life. With just over 10 days left, Wu Yu plans to move on to the next level. With his current strength, he is not enough to participate in the entry-level assessment, and time is still tight. Although I have inherited it, entering the immortal sect is still crucial for me. Resources, connections, and so on are all in great need. Wu Yu is the crown prince of a country, and he understands these principles. The fourth major method of the Vajra immortal body is used for the fourth level of inner strength in the realm of mortal body forging. Nizhuang not only strengthens the 5 organs and 6 organs, but also serves as the foundation of qi and blood. It is crucial for the central nervous system of the body. Before and after Nizhuang, the qi and blood are completely unequal. In the mortal world, one can only become a martial arts powerhouse after being strong within. This fourth great method is called 5 Zhangs and 5 Gods. Plant the hardware god into the 5 organs. They are the red gold god, purple gold god, platinum god, and black gold god. There are 5 steps in total. The dharma of 5 Zhangs and 5 Gods is unimaginable. After success, the 5 organs and 6 organs seem to have 5 gods sitting there, with a continuous source of qi and blood. The body is like the world, and the 5 organs and 6 organs are as strong as beasts, even stronger than bones. The 5 Zhangs and 5 Gods first starts with the method of breathing, which records the method of breathing and exhaling. The ingested gas is actually a blazing, sharp gas that tears and crisps through Wu Yu's 5 organs, causing unbearable pain. Immortal Gate, there is only one chance. This method is really difficult to cultivate, and Wu Yu had the idea of giving up on the way. However, all reality is the perseverance that supports him to push forward. Even if his heart is like a knife, constantly shattered, he persisted. In terms of resilience, Wu Yu has now reached a terrifying state. The immortal body of Vajra requires countless trials and tribulations in order to succeed. The golden blade, although only lasting for just over a dozen days, has torn through its internal organs billions of times, each time accompanied by rebirth and resilience. Later on, Wu Yu honed his 5 organs and 6 viscera to shine like gold. Their strength were as strong as those of a deep-sea whale's 5 organs, even blowing out a breath of violence that could shatter a tree. The inner strength is the true strength. In between breaths, it seemed as if tigers and leopards were roaring and thunder exploding in it, just like a human figure, like an ancient giant beast. The golden swastika on the back is even more dazzling. Buzz. In the end, Wu Yu let out a breath, and a strong wind blew in the mountains and forests before his eyes. The trees trembled incessantly, and the fallen leaves danced in the air. The 4th level of the Xiantai forging physical realm, the 5 organs and 5 gods, has finally become. After success, the first feeling is not strength, but hunger. Extreme hunger. Eat. Running through the mountains and forests, Wu Yu easily extinguished a wild boar weighing 2,000 pounds, roasted it over fire, and enjoyed it for half a day. Surprisingly, he completely consumed the beast. Looking at the remaining skeleton, Wu Yu had no idea that his appetite was so huge. A cultivator needs a huge supplement. I don't have the resources now, so I can only rely on ordinary things to supplement. It is said that some immortals, even elixirs, can take some without eating for 10.5 days. Moreover, my strength is still infinite. Finally succeeded. Wu Yu's melancholy during this period has now been swept away. After his body grew stronger and his heart became stronger, his smile also increased a lot, giving people a feeling of basking in spring breeze when speaking. In terms of temperament, there may not be any miscellaneous disciples who can compare with him. If it weren't for wearing miscellaneous clothes, one might be considered an outsider disciple. I didn't expect that just by reaching the 4th level, I would have the power equivalent to 130 warhorses, which is stronger than the 6th level of the general forging realm. The power is powerful, and the body is even more powerful. Ordinary swords are afraid that they won't be able to cut through my flesh and blood. It is impossible to say that you are unhappy. Now, Wu Yu has a great deal of confidence in the entry-level assessment, as if there are still 3 days left until that assessment. Wu Yu has not been preparing to practice for the past 3 days. For the past month, Sun Wudao has seen him go out every day, feeling anxious. Now that he has finally succeeded, he no longer needs to worry. He dug out the fine steel long sword and placed it in his residence, preparing to participate in the war in 3 days. Everything is ready. You finally figured it out. Come with me to the Immortal Beast Park tomorrow and work diligently. Sun Wudao was getting old and his eyes were also blurred. Wu Yu had undergone such changes during this period, walking like a fierce tiger or a giant beast, but he didn't notice it. As a miscellaneous worker, it's better to be obedient to oneself. Zhao Chuan is just too chaotic, so his life is gone. After that incident, Sun Wudao often sighed and used it as a negative lesson to teach Wu Yu. In 3 days, the entrance exam will be held. Do you want to go see it? Wu Yu asked while dining. Look. Of course I did. This is the most important day for Sun Wudao. He goes there every time. After all, this was his dream. Even if he saw other lucky ones step into the immortal gate, he was happy for them. Oh, then Wu Yu felt relieved. Wu Yu didn't know that Su Yanli had already arrived at the core of the blue waves and mountains. The main peak of the Bibo Mountains is called Tongtian Peak. It is said that it was not called this name before, but later the Tongtian sword sect discovered this place and established a sect here, naming the straight mountain peak that rises into the clouds as Tongtian Peak. Above the Tongtian Peak, amidst countless colorful immortal mist, the outline of a huge immortal palace faintly appears. That is exactly the Tongtian Immortal Palace, which is the place where the leader of the sect handles affairs and practices. There are countless crises hidden around the Tongtian Immortal Palace, with giant beasts dancing in it, swords flashing in it, and even thunder and lightning transforming into long snakes dancing. This is one of the forbidden areas of the Tongtian sword sect, and even the elder protector cannot enter directly without the permission of the sect leader. Now, the white dress girl Su Yanli has arrived before the heavenly immortal palace. Master, Yanli seeks to see you. Su Yanli's crisp voice came in. In the fairy mist, the long skirt fluttered, and Su Yanli was no different from the fairy in the hearts of ordinary people. Su Yanli's voice had just fallen, and the lightning in the clouds ahead had calmed down a bit. A passage appeared in the clouds, leading directly to the heavenly immortal palace. In the blink of an eye, I entered the heavenly immortal palace. On the main hall, there are a total of 9,981 precious swords shining with rune light on the surrounding walls. That is the tool of a cultivator. Ding 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 ding. Those swords were like trapped beasts, struggling in a beam of light and shadow, but unable to fly out. Starting from killing Zhao Chuan, I observed him for half a month, and that's all about Wu Yu's situation. Su Yanli bowed respectfully. Standing on a high platform on the wind and snow cliff, the leader of the sect was surrounded by a vast abyss. He was lost in thought as he recalled the scene he saw Wu Yu. Master, how should I deal with it? Should I take away his creation? As the saying goes, a man is innocent and harbors his own sins. You once taught me that the immortal way is the way of plunder. Turning back from the Fengshui cliff, Su Yanli's face instantly became serious and majestic. She was frightened and took 3 steps back. He said, Yanli, the path of the wind and snow cliff is the first path of the Blue Wave Mountains. If you inherit it from me, it is the first path of this place. Why covet the creation of the miscellaneous disciples? Cultivating my path can guarantee that you can enter the Golden Pill Avenue and reach the height of being a teacher in this lifetime. Su Yanli understood. She respectfully lowered her head, her beautiful eyes flickering with a contemplative light. As the Supreme Leader drank, it was a wake-up call for her. From now on, Yan Lighting will concentrate on practicing Master Tongtian's sword. Very well, my disciple, you must be with me and have the ambition to look down on the world. Although the immortal path is dangerous, we need to live up to our hearts. If our hearts are smooth, our path ahead will be smooth, said the Supreme Leader. I am from the Tongtian sword sect. Whoever can obtain the fortune of our ancestors, let him go. If he can maintain it and become successful, it is his luck. If he cannot maintain it and loses his life, it is also deserved. As an outstanding disciple, you need to consider your inner self. If you want to inherit it, you need to inherit it from the strong, that is the immortal way. I understand. Please step back. At the end, the Supreme Leader waved his hand, and countless long swords around him felt its immortal power, trembling incessantly. At this moment, Wu Yu was once again following Sun Wudao to the immortal beast garden. After a month of cultivation, according to the rules, he still had to work in this immortal beast garden from today on. A day without any worries, Wu Yu and Sun Wudao chatted and time passed. Suddenly, a crane crowed, indicating that a guest had arrived. The servants quickly welcomed him, and Wu Yu also raised his head. Suddenly, his pupils shrank, revealing that it was Tongxian and several other immortals who had arrived again. Wu Yu, quickly hide. Sun Wudao became anxious. After all, in the eyes of Tongxian, Wu Yu should be a dead person. If he sees it, there will obviously be some entanglement. But it was too late. Perhaps Wu Yu was too dazzling in the miscellaneous work, and Tongxian saw him at a glance. Chapter 9. Tongxian Road and Ascending Xiantai. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. There are a total of 4, Tongxian and Tongxian who came to Yanlifeng this time. Tongxian was dressed in a black and white robe, while another man in blue was even taller and thinner, like a pine tree, looking down and indifferent. As for the 2 women, they are incredibly charming. Although Wu Yu holds a high position in the mortal world, such a charming woman is still rare. One of the women has a tall and slender figure, with an iceberg-like face. Although beautiful, she is not easy to approach, while the other girl in red appears cute, with a full and delicate figure, bright eyes and white teeth, and is charming and charming. However, when facing Wu Yu and the others, there was still a sense of superiority in delicacy. Tongxian, with his agile figure, jumped off the crane and walked up to Wu Yu in 2 steps. He stared at Wu Yu with wide eyes and a shocked expression on his face. At that time, I made a move and confirmed that I had shattered his skull. He didn't actually die. How big was his fate? Tongxian felt incredulous. Tongxian. The 3 of them walked up from behind and were also stunned when they saw Wu Yu. How could this servant not have died? The girl in red covered her mouth and whispered. Why didn't you die? Tongxian was a bit unhappy. He had once threatened to kill the chicken as a warning to the monkeys, but now he realized that the chicken had not been killed, afraid that he would be laughed at by a few friends next to him. Wu Yu knew he was not weaker than Tongxian, but his identity was still different. After some consideration, he thought it was best not to cause any conflicts at this time, otherwise he was afraid that he would not be able to participate in the entry-level assessment. He said, returning to the immortal, the villain has a great fortune and is struggling to survive. However, we still have to thank the immortal for his mercy. Sun Wudao was originally nervous and trembling, but it was only after hearing Wu Yu's words that he felt a little relieved. Lien hurriedly said, "Immortal, thank you very much for your mercy. Last time, it was us who dared not take good care of the immortal crane. This time, we will definitely not do it." Situ Jin and the other three looked at each other and suddenly burst into laughter. Situ Jin said, "Let the three of you see the joke. Situ Jin, you're really not good. After smoking for a long time, even a servant can't be killed." The girl in red said coquettishly, and then looked at her fairy crane and said, "If my seductive son were to be harassed by these servants, I would definitely have skinned and cramped the perpetrator." She said such words in a coquettish tone, which was really speechless. This is exactly the heart of a demon hidden beneath the face of a celestial being. When the girl in red said this, Situ Jin couldn't hold his pride anymore. He had a brainwave, cleared his throat, and said to Wu Yu, "Last time, you killed my soul, and our account has not been cleared. So, there is a essence of the crane, and you eat it. I will let you go today." What he is referring to is the excrement of the crane. For a moment, all three of them behind couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Situ Jin, you are really vulgar." The tall woman couldn't help but laugh. "Brother Situ is in high spirits," said the young man in blue. Situ Jin said, "Don't joke, just have fun." On the other hand, the servants around all had a big change in their faces, but they were all helpless. "This essence is for me to eat." Sun Wudao was worried that Wu Yu could not control himself, so he hurriedly responded. Although he said he had never met such humiliation in his life, he did not care about anything for Wu Yu. That deep love moved Wu Yu. Meeting by chance, why does he treat himself so badly? Don't bother with them. Wu Yu originally wanted to get into the entrance examination before taking action, but now it seems that fate is going against him. He just doesn't know if he would miss the opportunity for the entry-level assessment if he were to resist them today. Wu Yu. Sun Wudao was greatly surprised, but Wu Yu grabbed him and took a few steps back. There was already a golden light flowing in his eyes, as if a giant beast had awakened. "Do you dare to disobey my orders?" Situ Jinjing was proud of his wit, but Wu Yu chose to rebel, which angered him greatly. Poor Wu Yu. All the servants looked at Wu Yu with pitiful eyes. "Last time we escaped a great disaster, I'm afraid we'll be completely killed this time. It's that ghost Zhao Chuan who caused him trouble." Situ Jin wanted to find an opportunity, otherwise he wouldn't even be able to kill a laborer. He would lose face, especially since he was pursuing the girl in red, so he couldn't lose his prestige. "Today I'll send you to the underworld." Situ Jin was about to take action. In an instant, a young girl in a white dress appeared silently in front of him. Situ Jin's eyes flickered, and with a slap, he flew it out and slammed it fiercely against a blue stone, causing it to crack several times with a loud bang. "Who?" Situ Jin's face turned red and his teeth fell out. He was suddenly furious, but when he fixed his eyes on him, the person in front of him trembled and he quickly said, "Senior Sister Su, why did you come?" Wu Yu did not expect Su Yan to appear. This was the first time he had approached this young girl so closely. Compared to Su Yan, although the two women before were beautiful, their appearance and temperament were the difference between the pearl of rice and the bright moon. A faint fragrance that makes one feel relaxed and happy. "This is my Yan Feng, my territory." Su Yanli's tone was indifferent and he waved his hand. "Situ Jin, and you three, don't appear in my Yan Feng from now on." She got angry. Situ Jin couldn't believe it and said, "Senior Sister Su, this is just a laborer, This is the person from Yan Feng. If we want to punish him, it's not your turn," Su Yan said. Her tone was light and her voice was not high, but she had an undeniable power. In Wu Yu's eyes, she is the true immortal, someone who can be compared to the Haotian immortal. She knows Taoism and can reverse yin and yang. Humph. These four people also have bad temperaments. Tongtian took a deep breath and looked at Su Yanli. He paused word by word and said, "Senior sister Su, my younger brother Situ Minglang is 13 years old and has reached the peak of the mortal body forging realm. He can be considered the supreme martial god in the mortal world. This talent is even more powerful than you used to be." The woman in red next to her said, "It is said that the Supreme Immortal Protector is preparing to wait for Situ Minglang to condense her energy before accepting her as an apprentice. At that time, her status will not be inferior to that of senior sister Su. Protecting the true person of the sect, their status is only below that of the true person in charge of the sect." Su Yanli's cherry lips parted slightly, and her face turned indifferent as she said, "You're threatening me." "I dare not, I just casually said that." Tongtian sneered and touched his hot face. The group stepped onto the crane and flew into the clouds, galloping away. As they left, Tongtian's gaze shifted to Wu Yu's face. Looking at each other. Buzz. Tongtian's spirit shook, as if he had been hit and almost fell off the crane. It must be Su Yanli pretending to be a god and a ghost. He definitely wouldn't have thought that this was Wu Yu's impact on him. Situ Minglang. At the age of 13, has martial arts become divine? Su Yanli looked back at Wu Yu and Sun Wudao, but was pondering other things and disappeared from his sight in the blink of an eye, as if he had never appeared before. "Thank you very much, Immortal." Sun Wudao escaped and quickly knelt down on the ground. This time, it was indeed thanks to Su Yanli's help, and Wu Yu also thanked her. It was Tongtian who had been immersed in the pleasure of cultivation and had forgotten about the hatred of killing himself last time. However, this conflict gave Wu Yu an additional thought in his heart. If given the opportunity, he would make Tongtian kneel down and beg for mercy. 13 years old, martial arts are divine. Just thinking of the character Situ Minglang, Wu Yu was still somewhat shocked. At the age of 15, he reached the Wudao 5 heavens and was known as a Wudao genius. Unexpectedly, there is a terrifying existence here at the age of 13, with only 10 levels of martial arts. Now that I am a miscellaneous worker, if I am bullied, it will be troublesome to fight back. I will definitely become a part of the Tongtian sword sect in this last opportunity. In the blink of an eye, it's late at night. Wu Yu, tomorrow is the entrance exam. Are you going? Sun Wudao asked. Of course I did. My legs and feet are not very convenient. Ascending the immortal peak is not close, why don't we set off tonight? Sun Wudao asked. In fact, he shouldn't have gone, after all, he is very old, but the entry-level assessment is his dream in this life, and he doesn't want to miss it every time. Now that he is getting older, he is also very happy to see those young people become disciples of the Tongtian sword sect one by one. Very satisfied. No need, I'll carry you. Wu Yu wrapped the refined steel long sword around his waist and hung it. When Sun Wudao asked, he said it was a cane for walking on the mountain road tomorrow. This day has finally arrived. Although Sun Wudao twisted a little, he didn't say much when he saw Wu Yu carrying him on his back and his steps were still quite agile. Ascend the immortal peak. The busiest place in the mountains of Bibo today, whether it is the assessment of internal miscellaneous disciples or the assessment of talents recruited from outside, is all conducted here. If you can pass, it means you have a chance to embark on the path of immortality. From mortals to cultivators. Amidst the blue waves and mountains, Wu Yu had walked such a long distance for the first time. Today is a grand festival for his miscellaneous disciples, and many people start their journey before dawn. However, the actual assessment only begins at noon. Your health has improved a lot. Sun Wudao was also very surprised to see Wu Yu climbing through the mountains, carrying himself on his back, not feeling tired at all. I originally had the foundation of the 5 heavens of martial arts, but I was only dragged down by the soul-breaking powder. In fact, he was thinking that he was about to bring the greatest surprise to Sun Wudao. Even if he remained calm in his heart, he was extremely excited when he imagined Sun Wudao's expression. Sun Wudao fell asleep on his back, and Wu Yu accelerated his pace. Just as dawn broke, he arrived at Tongxian Peak, and not many people had arrived yet. Most of the people gathered at Tongxian Peak today were miscellaneous disciples. Tongxian Road, ascending the Immortal Terrace. Disciples who want to participate in the battle must pass the verification at the bottom of the Immortal Peak, enter the mountainside for assessment, and finally come out from the mountaintop. This is the process of Tongxian Road, and then climb the Immortal Terrace at the mountaintop. There is also a heavy assessment. Non-participating miscellaneous disciples can directly climb the Immortal Terrace at the mountaintop to observe the battle. On the Immortal Ascension platform, there are over 100,000 observation platforms belonging to the miscellaneous workers, which is meant to inspire their cultivation. As for the formal disciples of the Tongtian sword sect, they all have their own cranes, and observing battles in the sky is actually of higher status and better effect. The height of ascending Immortal Peak is similar to that of Yanlifeng, but it is several times thicker and wider. Before Sun Wudao woke up, Wu Yu sent it to a good position, and from this perspective, one can clearly see the battlefield below. Arrived. So fast. Sun Wudao woke up and looked around in a daze. He remembered that he had struggled to climb up here before, but he didn't expect to wake up after sleeping today. Wu Yu smiled slightly. This position is great. Sun Wudao felt as if he had returned to his youth, his face full of excitement, and he said, "Today, you can clearly see those geniuses soaring to the sky. I'll carry you over next time." Wu Yu smiled. His mood is also extremely excited. Today is the watershed for his transformation. Most importantly, today is the moment for him and Sun Wudao to fulfill their dreams. More and more people are coming to watch the battle, with at least 100,000 miscellaneous workers and a bustling crowd. It is said that many laborers have passed the verification and entered the Tongxian Road to prepare for the noon war. It's almost noon. Wu Yu claimed that his stomach was uncomfortable and there was no convenient place to climb the Sendai. He needed to go down the mountain for a moment. This is about to start. Sun Wudao seemed to want him to see the battle of ascending to immortality. It's okay, I'm not very interested. Just watch and I'll be right back. Don't wander around, so I won't be able to find you when I come back. Okay, then I'll help you occupy your spot. Wu Yu is not worried about him walking around recklessly. After all, his legs and feet are not convenient now, and he cannot go down the mountain himself. After leaving here, he quickly descended the mountain and reached the bottom, ready to pass the verification. Chapter 10. Life and Death by Destiny. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The so-called verification is actually very simple. It's just about reporting your name and which immortal you belong to. The person in charge has specific information in their hands, and Wu Yu is also recorded. He is exactly 15 years old this year. Are you the 6th level of the physical training realm? The protagonist looked up at Wu Yu in confusion. It wasn't that he wanted to make things difficult for Wu Yu, but there was no record of his cultivation in Wu Yu's records. That's right. Wu Yu nodded. Go and give it a try. It is now approaching noon, and most of the miscellaneous workers have been verified. It is said that more than 300 people have met the requirements. Before the assessment, identity authentication and realm authentication are required. After the mastermind, there were 100 thick and vigorous war horses, each of which was pitch black, hot-tempered, and panting heavily. Now they were impatiently pedaling on the bluestone ground, afraid of crushing it. The warhorse was tied with thick ropes, which eventually gathered together, and under the arrangement of the master, Wu Yu grasped the rope. Is there really the 6th level of physical fitness? The simplest verification is to directly compete with 100 warhorses. Who is that? I don't know you. Some people didn't have a chance to climb Mount Shen and just watched the verification at the foot of the mountain. Wu Yu has been in Yanlifeng all year round, and for the entire Tongtian sword sect, almost no one knows him. Pop. The mastermind shook off his whip and for a moment, it turned into a whip-like shadow all over the sky, hitting the warhorses, causing them to suffer and run wildly. So strong. This whip made Wu Yu admire him deeply. But the power of the warhorses erupted, and a terrifying force emanated from the ropes. Hundreds of warhorses in front of me stirred up fierce smoke, and the momentum was like killing enemies on the battlefield. Come back. Wu Yu was well prepared, holding onto the rope with one hand and tying it to the ground with a horse stance. His muscles, and bones complemented each other, especially his 5 organs, which were pure and strong, possessing the power of a giant beast. Drink. That 100 warhorses, they were dragged backwards. It's done. The person in charge threw a red talisman paper to Wu Yu and said, "This is the red fire talisman. If there is any danger to your life, or if you voluntarily withdraw, just crush it and there will be a red light surrounding you. There will be disciples of the immortal sect to save you. It's actually a talisman." Wu Yu held on to the red talisman paper, which was written with complex symbols that he couldn't understand, and he could vaguely feel the power from the immortal realm. It is said that this is something that only powerful immortals can draw. He carefully hid the red fire symbol and walked into a cave at the bottom of the mountain, where there were 3 big characters on the cave. Tongxian Road. Introduction Assessment, the first level. Wu Yu hasn't come yet. Sun Wudao looked left and right. A sturdy and obese worker next to him occupied Wu Yu's position. It's already noon. At this position, you can see who is the first to kill out of Tongxian Road. The Battle of Tongxian Road and the Battle of Ascending the Immortal Platform, the one who passes through will become the immortal. There were 100,000 miscellaneous disciples around, stretching their necks one by one, their heads bouncing but not daring to make a sound, waiting quietly for the start. In the sky, cranes dance one by one, and on each crane, there is an official disciple of the Tongtian sword sect. They gathered in groups of 3, 2, or 3, and today they were standing tall, naturally watching the excitement. However, the most noteworthy one is the person in charge of this assessment. Elder Chuangong. Above the immortal ascension platform, there is a white jade platform suspended in the air, with several formations flashing at the bottom, as if a wind is blowing down, pushing the white jade platform into the air. There are 3 white jade seats on the platform, with the largest one in the middle. On top of it sits an old man with white eyebrows, white hair, and a white robe, with a serious face and a calm and imposing demeanor. This is exactly the wood song of Elder Chuangong. There is no one in the left seat, and there is a girl in a white dress on the right seat, who is actually Su Yanli. Many of Yan Lifeng's servants felt very proud when they saw Su Yanli on top of them. Yan Lifeng's nephew, do you have a good worker for Yan Lifeng this time? Elder Mu Gu casually asked. He knew that with Su Yanli's temper, she wouldn't pay too much attention to ordinary miscellaneous disciples. There is one named Wu Yu, Su Yan said. What's special about this person? Mu Gu was curious. I don't know, it's because I wanted to know how special it is that I came here today to take a look, Su Yan said. I see, then I need to pay more attention, Mu Gu chuckled. Of course, even a smile is awe-inspiring. After all, this is a truly influential figure of the Tongtian sword sect. Surprisingly, Su Yanli has come. In the sky, there are groups of cranes in groups of 3 or 5, and in one excellent position, Situ Jin and 2 other men and 2 women are all here. Situ Jin, what's good about a group of novice miscellaneous servants? We are the immortal sect that directly selects beginners from outside, and we are 10 times stronger than these miscellaneous servants who need to be assessed, said the girl in red arrogantly. Situ Jin smiled and said, Hua Qianyu, there's nothing to do anyway. Let's take a look at their trapped animal battle and have fun. The girl in red is named Hua Qianyu. The tall woman in blue clothes is named Lu Mushue. The other tall and thin man is Wang Yiyang. They are all talented individuals in the mortal world, descendants of martial arts families. Especially Tongtian, whose family was a hidden martial arts powerhouse in the mortal world, had 3 brothers selected to join the Tongtian sword sect. The eldest brother Kong, the second Tongtian, and the most rebellious third Minglang. Tongtian, let's not be too proud. It is said that among the miscellaneous disciples this time, 3 have reached the 7th level of the forging body realm, which is 1 level stronger than us. The 7th level, that's my elder brother's level. Tongtian was extremely envious. It is said that the Battle of Tongxian Road has already begun. Let's guess which of these 3 should come out from Tongxian Road first. Stepping into this door, life and death are determined by fate. There is a stone tablet in front of me, on which 8 big characters are written in blood. Just looking at it, it is spiritually resounding and heart-shaking. The immortal path is merciless, the path to becoming an immortal cannot be turned back. Another stone tablet. Practicing is plundering, being strong and generous can lead to justice. The last stone tablet is the tallest. That's right, practicing is plundering the heavens and the earth. Only by being strong can justice be upheld. Through the ups and downs, Wu Yu could deeply understand this sentence. Nowadays, there are about 300 miscellaneous disciples, located in a pitch-black mountain valley, and because they are all competitors, there is a distance between them. The official assessment will start soon. Sun Wudao is at the exit of Tongtian Road, where there are countless immortals waiting and watching battles. For Wu Yu, who wants to enter the immortal sect, this is the most important challenge in his life to this day. If you're not excited, it's impossible. After passing this level, I am qualified to say, challenge Haotian. He will definitely return to the state of Wu in Dongyue. At this point, someone is discussing. That's Xiao Danlong. It's said to be the 7th level of the forging realm, with the power of 200 war horses. His best skill is the mid-level martial arts of his mortal family, Xiao 13 swords. He's 14 years old this year. Following everyone's discussion, Wu Yu saw a young man who looked down upon him. In fact, these 300 miscellaneous workers are all mortal geniuses, and Wu Yu is the oldest among them at the age of 15. Looking around, some are estimated to be only around 11 years old. That's a confusion, and it's also the 7th level of physical training. It's said that he was born in the mountains and raised by a fierce tiger. He was a natural fighter and was a miscellaneous worker of a core disciple. The core disciple liked him very much and passed on his 8 devil slaying techniques and top-notch footwork, phantom snake step. He's only 13 years old this year. The crowd was talking about a young man wearing animal skin, scrutinizing the crowd like a wild beast. There are 3 in total who are in the 7th level of the forging body realm, and one is called Qingmang. She is a 12-year-old girl who has not yet grown tall and has a pair of eyes that lean towards blue. She is also a core disciple's laborer, and comes from an ordinary background. It is said that when she first arrived at the Tongtian sword sect, she was 7 years old and had no strength at that time. I excel in both martial arts, such as Yugu Shan Sword Shadow, and a Little Green Mang. Among them, a Little Green Mang is a footwork. Although they are powerful, Wu Yu just wants to become a disciple of the immortal sect and may not necessarily want to win first, so it is not an absolute hostile relationship. He also admires these young children, especially the little girl Qingmang, who is only 12 years old and has reached the 7th level of physical fitness. However, it is obvious that Minglang is still the most powerful. Wu Yu just sighed as more than 20 disciples of the immortal sect appeared ahead, among which a young man with black clothes and black hair led the way. His eyes were deep and the most terrifying, and he should be a core disciple. Assessors, the path to immortality is about to open. On this path, you will encounter a total of 3 waves of attacks, all of which are powerful beasts that are about to turn into demons. Among them, the danger is extremely great, and even my outer disciples cannot guarantee that they will be able to break through. If there is a danger to your life, crush the red fire talisman and we will save your life. The first paragraph scared many people, and many of them began to turn pale. There are a total of 300 people, and only the top 100 who have broken through the path of immortality can participate in the battle of the immortal ascension platform. Therefore, it is best for everyone to strive for 1/3 of the chance. Remember, as long as you succeed in the assessment, you can embark on the path of immortality. From then on, indulge in singing and slaying demons and demons. If you can't even deal with hundreds of wild beasts, how can you talk about slaying demons and demons? I am a disciple of the Tongtian sword sect, who dominates with his sword. Now that time has come, all you need to remember is one word. Kill. The last word fell, the mountainside shook, and a large gate descended from the front wall, revealing a dark and bloody passage. The Battle of Tongxian Road, open. There are only 100 spots available. The channel is very large. 300 miscellaneous workers rushed in, fearing to miss the opportunity. Wu Yu is not in a hurry. He deeply understands that those who charge at the forefront of this immortal road often face head-on blows. Draw out the refined steel long sword, and Wu Yu moves forward in the middle position. Shwa shwa. A large number of people entered through the dark passage and opened up in front of them. Unexpectedly, there was such a large space between the mountains. The light in front of them was dim, but many underground plants could be seen growing. In this open mountainside, 300 miscellaneous workers scattered and gritted their teeth, moving forward at high speed. Red-horned snake. Just as I entered, someone suddenly exclaimed and screamed. It is clearly a terrifying beast that can make the 6th level of the forging realm scream in agony. Snake. This reminded Wu Yu of the snake demon Wan Qing. Hiss. Ahead, a basin-sized head suddenly appeared next to the underground plant, emitting a foul smell. It was a black snake with a triangular head and a blood-red pointed horn on its forehead, sharp like a piercing sword and highly poisonous. Looking around, there are about hundreds of red-horned snakes hidden among the dense underground plants. This article is officially published by 17K Novel Network. Readers are requested to search for 17K, click on it, and then search for the title of this book. Alternatively, you can add WeChat. Yang. Or search for Qinyang on WeChat. Crazy people send updated links directly to everyone's phones every day. New book release, urgent need for flowers, click, please try to come to the genuine version, log in to read, and help crazy people rush to the new book list as everyone wishes. The excitement of swallowing heaven has just begun, and the final ending of Dragon Blood God of War is also coming soon. Starting from today, the madman will continue to update in high volume, with both books simultaneously, until the Dragon Blood ends and Swallowing Heaven takes over the banner.